The world of zombies, beginning with a golden spell at maximum level. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 Can't Be Wrong. Lin Kaiyun glanced at Taiyi Qingfang jokingly. He didn't mean to look down on him. But this method of inviting gods was somewhat different from the usual altar-setting method. Few Taoist priests in the world could master this kind of Taoist technique. It wasn't that it was very profound. But this method of inviting gods was just like the divine fighting technique of Taoist Simu. It needed the blessing and protection of the immortal elders of the sect. For example, the divine fighting technique used by Taoist Simu and Lin Kaiyun all obtained their power from the lineage of the ancestors of Mount Mao. The same is true for the art of inviting gods. In simple terms, you must have some connection with the so-called gods. For example, the ancestor of your lineage had once ascended to heaven and became a god in heaven. Only in this way can you perform the art of inviting gods. In other words, if you have no connections in heaven, even if you learn this art of inviting gods, you will probably not get any response. Those wandering Taoist priests claim that they can get help from the gods by offering dozens of taels of silver or some extravagant sacrifices. That is pure nonsense. The gods in heaven have no interest in money and items from the human world, and these things cannot help them. The only things that can interest the gods in heaven are the power of incense and merit, but basically no one can provide these two things. Taiyi Qingfang saw Lin Kaiyun's questioning look and explained helplessly, when I was given this zombie arm, I looked for many people. Among them was a Taoist priest in a tattered robe. He said that my zombie arm was a curse from an evil god and that I could ask the gods in heaven to help me get rid of it. But he made a big scene. He built a stage in our backyard, put all kinds of offerings on it, and invited a troupe of actors. He also asked me for $20 in incense money. Sure enough, Taiyi Qingfang met a common charlatan. Lin Kaiyun nodded and asked with interest, then what? Was there any effect in the end? Taiyi Qingfang thought about it, recalled the previous scene, and said to Lin Kaiyun, how should I put it? There really was no effect. However, when the old Taoist priest was performing the ritual, the wind and clouds in the sky did change suddenly. I also saw a vague shadow in the sky. The old Taoist priest said that this was an illusion of the gods and asked us to worship devoutly. However, the illusion of the gods in the end actually cost $1,000 and a truckload of fine wine. Our family really couldn't afford these things. At that time, my mother kept praying to the gods, but the old Taoist priest told me that although the gods were omnipotent, it would take some effort to help me lift the curse. It would take at least a few years for the gods to recover the lost strength. In the end, they had no choice but to give up treating my zombie arm. Oh, after hearing Taiyi Qingfang's recollection, Lin Kaiyun frowned, and then asked doubtfully, are you sure that the illusion of the gods and the strange phenomenon of changing wind and clouds are real? Are you not blinded? If what Taiyi Qingfang said was true, then the old Taoist priest might really be quite capable and might have succeeded in inviting the gods. However, the so-called immortal asking for $1,000 and a cart of good wine was clearly a liar's trick. You know, even the smallest immortal in the sky would not be so cheap as to ask for earthly property. Therefore, the old Taoist priest mentioned by Taiyi Qingfang was most likely a liar. But what was going on with that sudden change in the weather? Of course it's true. My mother and I are ordinary people. It's possible that we were deceived by the sleight of hand. But my mother has an old friend who has been reading Buddhist scriptures in our local temple for more than 30 years. He was there at the time and whispered to me that the illusion of the gods was indeed not fake, but the aura of the gods seemed very unfriendly, so he asked me to be careful. Taiyi Qingfang nodded very affirmatively, then waved his fist in annoyance, and said unwillingly, our family couldn't afford so much money at the time. Later, the old Taoist priest said some good things for us. He said that it only cost 100 yuan to relieve my pain. Because I was in great pain at the time, I gritted my teeth and paid the money. A day later, the pain in my zombie arm was really relieved. If I had known it was really useful, I would have sold the old house to collect the incense money. Maybe I wouldn't have to run here to take risks like I do now. Taiyi Qingfang became more and more annoyed as he spoke, as if he had lost $1,000,000, and he wished he could slap himself hard. After hearing what Taiyi Qingfang said, combined with Taiyi Qingfang's miserable expression, Lin Kaiyun couldn't help laughing. He was now very sure that the old Taoist priest was definitely a liar, and Dai Qingfang not only paid more than $100, but was also very upset that he didn't pay more. After seeing Lin Kaiyun laughing, Dai Qingfang knew that Lin Kaiyun didn't believe this, so he quickly raised his zombie arm and explained, "Brother Lin, why are you laughing? Everything I said is true. Since the old Taoist priest invited the gods, my zombie arm has not hurt so much." Seeing Dai Qingfang's hurried explanation, Lin Kaiyun quickly put away the smile on his face and said seriously, "It's not that I don't believe you, I know what you said is true, but the old Taoist priest is 100% a liar." After hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, Dai Qingfang was stunned. He firmly believed that it was definitely not a trick at the beginning, but Lin Kaiyun's strength made Dai Qingfang doubt it. Was he really deceived at the beginning? Then Dai Qingfang looked at Lin Kaiyun and asked with some lack of confidence, "But, Brother Lin, if the old Taoist priest is really a liar, then what about the illusion of the gods and the sudden change of the weather? What's going on?" Lin Kaiyun was not very clear now and could not give Dai Qingfang's answer for a while, but the problem must be with the old Taoist priest. He asked directly, "Well, tell me first, is there anything strange about this old Taoist priest? Strange places?" "Wait a minute, let me think about it." After hearing Lin Kaiyun's question, Dai Qingfang frowned and fell into deep thought. Then Dai Qingfang suddenly clapped his hands, as if he thought of something, and said to Lin Kaiyun, "Oh, I remember, this old Taoist priest, everything else is normal, but there is one thing that is very strange. There is a monkey standing on his shoulder. He said that it was a monkey that he rescued from drowning before, and he has been keeping it with him ever since. But the monkey is very smart, as if it can understand people talking." "Oh, so that's the case." "That's right. The sudden change in the situation and the so-called illusion of gods that you saw are indeed not a trick." Lin Kaiyun smiled. He already understood how the old Taoist priest had deceived Dai Qingfang and the old monk. Chapter 227, Start to Pray to the Gods. Dai Qingfang was a little confused after hearing what Lin Kaiyun said. He didn't understand why Lin Kaiyun suspected it was an illusion before, but now said it was not an illusion. Dai Qingfang rolled his eyes without figuring out the reason, and then asked, "Brother Lin, what do you mean by this? Didn't you say before that the old Taoist priest was a liar? Is there another reason?" Lin Kaiyun nodded with a smile, picked up the brush on the table and shook it, and said calmly, "The changes you saw are indeed real, but those were not done by the gods invited by the old Taoist priest, but by the monkey on his shoulder." "Monkey?" Dai Qingfang muttered subconsciously after hearing this word, and asked in disbelief, "Brother Lin, do you mean that the monkey is also a monster? Just like we encountered the tiger medicine and this ugly fish monster?" "That's right." Lin Kaiyun nodded and continued to explain, "The monkey is indeed a monster as you understand it. At the same time, it should be good at setting up illusions and illusions. The old Taoist priest used this characteristic of the monkey monster to deceive you through the so-called method of inviting gods." After hearing Lin Kaiyun's explanation, Dai Qingfang believed Lin Kaiyun's words in his heart, and felt that the old Taoist priest was most likely a liar. However, he still asked with some confusion, "Really? Impossible? If he really had this ability, he should have a lot of places to make money, and he could even cooperate with those warlords. Why would he do such a sneaky thing? After all, in the eyes of ordinary people like Dai Qingfang, people with this ability would be flattered wherever they go." This was Dai Qingfang's previous view. After he was transplanted with a zombie arm, he came into contact with these people with magical abilities to a greater or lesser extent, and he was even more shocked. Take him for example. If it weren't for this zombie arm, which might endanger his life, he would not care, because with a special ability, he could choose to follow those warlords, eat and drink well, and have a high status. Lin Kaiyun put down the brush, and said with a smile, with his hands behind his back like Lin Jiu, "Let me tell you this. Judging from the old Taoist stress and personality traits you mentioned, he is obviously used to being free and easy, so how could he work for someone else? Besides, this is not a small amount of money. Just look at you yourself. You gave almost $200. If your family is richer, maybe you gave $1,000. And he wouldn't just cheat you. Do the math yourself, is this still a small amount of money? And you can be free like this." As Lin Kaiyun calculated, he was very surprised. He didn't expect that the old Taoist who relied on monkeys and monsters to cheat and deceive people could make so much money. Thinking of this, Lin Kaiyun tilted his head, looked at the blue bricks above his head, and whispered quietly, It's so profitable. You know, I really know how to summon gods, so I can make more money, right? Of course, Lin Kaiyun only dared to think about it. After all, he knew the temper of his master Lin Jiu very well. If he dared to use this technique to make money, Lin Jiu would definitely beat him to death with a coffin board. Dai Qingfeng also thought it through at this time. He pounded his hands angrily and cursed with an unhappy face. Damn! No wonder my mother's monk friend said that the illusion of the immortal was a little unfriendly. It was simply a monster. How could it be friendly? Lin Kaiyun waved his hand casually and spoke slowly. Okay, you don't have to complain. Maybe the pain in your zombie arm was relieved later, and it was also caused by the monkey monster asked by the old Taoist priest. At this time, Luowen, who had been snoring, also woke up and saw Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfeng chatting. At the same time, he also saw the stone table that Lin Kaiyun was fiddling with. Luowen, like Dai Qingfeng before, walked over curiously, took a good look, and asked in confusion, Master Lin, Boss Dai, what are you two doing? Magic. After seeing Luowen wake up, Lin Kaiyun scratched his wrist with his fingernail, then conjured up a porcelain bowl with his backhand, dripped blood into the bowl, and then took out a piece of yellow paper with runes written on it from his arms, handed it to Luowen, and instructed, It's just right, Luowen, you wake up, I'm waiting for you. Go and drip this blood on this oil you spread yesterday, about 1 drop every 3 or 4 meters, and don't stop. Finally, when you get outside the cave, there should be half a bowl left. Draw Tai Chi on the outside and put the talisman inside on the yang side. Luowen took the half bowl of blood and the yellow talisman paper with a confused look on his face. He was a little embarrassed and said hesitantly, Master Lin, what you said before was too complicated. I didn't hear it clearly. Can you repeat it again? Lin Kaiyun sighed and repeated it again. Then he walked in front of Luowen, stared at him, and emphasized word by word, Isn't what I said clear enough? Seeing Lin Kaiyun's ferocious look, Luowen shrank his neck in fear and turned away quickly. Although he was running for his life, he held the bowl carefully in his hand and did not dare to neglect it at all. After seeing Luowen running away, Dai Qingfeng asked Lin Kaiyun, Brother Lin, what do I need to do? Can I help you? Just help me here. Lin Kaiyun glanced at Dai Qingfeng casually, and then stood by the table with his eyes closed to rest. Seeing this, Dai Qingfeng stopped talking and waited quietly by the side. Unlike these two people, Luowen was more miserable. He bent over and calculated the distance little by little, dripping Lin Kaiyun's blood from the bowl on the scattered soil. After a long time, he finally walked up the passage and out of the cave. Looking at the sun hanging high in the sky, Luowen did not dare to delay, and directly drew a Tai Chi according to Lin Kaiyun's instructions, and then put the talisman paper aside. After finishing all this, Luowen put his hand to his mouth and shouted towards the cave entrance like a loudspeaker, Master Lin, it's done, what else do we need to do? After hearing Luowen's voice, Lin Kaiyun slowly opened his eyes, and then softly said to the outside of the cave, You don't have to do anything, just wait there, and tell me when the talisman paper is burned out. Lin Kaiyun only spoke in a normal voice, but it was accurately transmitted to Luowen's ears, and then he immediately heard Luowen's response, I understand, as long as the talisman paper is burned out, I will definitely tell you. Then Lin Kaiyun picked up the brush and began to write on the paper on the stone table. Chapter 228 Don't worry, let the gods fly for a while. Lin Kaiyun was standing tall and writing like a walking grandmaster. Seeing this, Dai Qingfeng, who was standing by, was amazed. He came over curiously to see what Lin Kaiyun was writing. On an auspicious day and time, set up an altar and burn incense, set up a table and pray for the gods to come, turn the 8 gates, 5 up and 3 down, still waters run deep, turn misfortune into good fortune, now the sky is not up, the wind and clouds are not down, May Ocean Jr. Lin Kaiyun, today I invite all the gods. Lin Kaiyun's handwriting was messy, like a rune that was difficult to understand. Although the artistic quality was a bit poor, it was very neat, so Dai Qingfeng could see it clearly and read it out in a low voice. However, although Dai Qingfeng knew every word, he didn't know what it meant when they were put together. Lin Kaiyun glanced at Dai Qingfeng who was looking around and ignored him. He took out a small jar of wine, a blue and white porcelain bowl, and a copper coin sword strung with copper coins from his storage belt. Lin Kaiyun slapped a blue bowl on the stone table built with blue bricks, then threw the copper coin sword into the air, raised his hand to catch it, and cast a spell, while saying to Dai Qingfeng, hurry up and pour the wine. Don't fill it up, only fill it up to 9 points. Dai Qingfeng didn't dare to hesitate after hearing this, and directly picked up the wine jar and carefully poured the wine into the blue bowl. There is almost no difference between 9 points and full, but Taoists pay attention to the law of nature, dare not pray for perfection, and leave a line for the sky, and 9 is a Taoist auspicious number. Although Dai Qingfeng didn't know the meaning of this, he still poured almost 9 points meticulously. Lin Kaiyun lowered his head slightly and saw Dai Qingfeng had already poured wine into the blue bowl, then quickly inserted the copper coin sword into the bowl and gently picked up the wine. Then, a scene that shocked Dai Qingfeng even more appeared. Lin Kaiyun's mouth spit out flames like a magic trick. The flames sprayed directly on the wine that was picked up, soaking the wine in the altar. The incense that was soaked by the wine was not affected at all, but burned with vigorous flames. At the same time, Lin Kaiyun directly picked up the sacrificial text written on the stone table, pulled up a corner, and held it directly above the incense, allowing the sacrificial text to be ignited by the flames on the incense. Then Lin Kaiyun closed his eyes and recited the contents of the sacrificial text loudly. On an auspicious day and time, set up an altar and burn incense, open the table and stand up, invite the gods to come, the 8 gates turn around, 5 up and 3 down, quiet waters run deep, turn misfortune into good fortune, now is not in the sky, and the wind and clouds are not on the ground. May Ocean's Junior Lin Kaiyun invites all the gods today. The voice was unusually deep and high, like a bronze bell in the mountains, shucking the heart and spleen, and it didn't sound like a sound that could be made by a human mouth. At the same time, this sound kept echoing in the passage of the cave, as if it was gradually spreading with the flow of air. After reading it once, Lin Kaiyun did not stop, but read it again. This time, there was no difference from the previous content, but the strange thing was that the sacrificial text, which was obviously burned by the flames before, showed signs of time going back. The burned places were slowly recovering, as if time was going back. Dai Qingfeng was stunned when he saw this scene, and quickly stretched out his hands to move them. He was relieved to make sure that time was not going back. Although Dai Qingfeng was surprised, he did not dare to interrupt and ask questions, so as not to disturb Lin Kaiyun who was reciting the sacrificial text. Lin Kaiyun closed his eyes, but he seemed to be able to feel that the sacrificial text paper he was holding was not burned by the flames, so he repeated the content of the sacrificial text over and over again. The paper with the sacrificial text was also repeatedly burned by the flames. After turning into ashes, the ashes were reassembled, as if time was going back. This went on and on until the 9th time Lin Kaiyun finished reading the sacrificial text. The paper hanging above the sacrificial text finally burned up completely, with no signs of repeating. When the paper with the sacrificial text was finally burned up, Lin Kaiyun withdrew his hand, slowly opened his eyes, and then stared at the paper ashes blown away by the air, looking a little unhappy, and muttered, "It was only completely burned up on the 9th time. It seems that the deity who received the sacrificial text this time is a little arrogant. The number of times the sacrificial text is read is directly related to the deity being invited. If the paper is burned up after reading the sacrificial text once, it means that the deity who received the sacrificial text is very happy to help this time. If it is read several times, it means that the deity who received the sacrificial text is not very willing to pay attention. If the paper with the sacrificial text is not burned up after reading it 9 times, it can be said that the invitation to the god has failed. But when it was read for the 9th time, it burned out completely." Lin Kaiyun had never encountered this situation before. Although it was also a success, the immortal who received the sacrificial text agreed to help only after the 9th time. It must have been very reluctant and would definitely not cooperate at that time. However, it was not up to any immortal to decide whether to cooperate or not, because Lin Kaiyun had his own means to deal with it. Dai Qingfeng, who was standing aside, saw that Lin Kaiyun did not do anything else after the sacrificial text paper was burned, and asked tentatively, "Brother Lin, is it done?" "Yes, it's done. What else do you want? Do you want to burn incense and pray, take a bath and change clothes?" Lin Kaiyun glanced at Dai Qingfeng, smiled and nodded, and joked. In fact, in theory, the art of inviting gods requires a lot of preparations in advance, and it is also very cumbersome. The first is a variety of sacrifices. Basically, pigs, cattle and sheep are necessary, and it is best to have boys and girls. But now in this dark cave, where can we find boys and girls? So Lin Kaiyun kept everything simple. This must be the reason why the gods who received the sacrificial text were reluctant to help. After hearing Lin Kaiyun's joke, Dai Qingfeng stopped asking. Although he was curious, he was not as outspoken as Luowen. Time passed by minute by minute. The cave was still the cave, the passage was still the passage, and the underground lake was still the underground lake. There was no change, as if nothing had happened. Dai Qingfeng couldn't help it. After all, this method was related to his life, and Lin Kaiyun said yesterday that if it didn't work, he would have to return empty-handed. So Dai Qingfeng preconceived that Lin Kaiyun's method of summoning gods had failed. He asked anxiously, "Brother Lin, this failed, then do we have any other way?" Lin Kaiyun hugged his shoulders and leaned against the wall beside him, saying nonchalantly, "Who told you it failed? Why are you in such a hurry? Let the gods fly for a while." Chapter 229 Asking for the merit of incense. "Master Lin, it's on fire, the talisman paper is on fire." Sure enough, not long after Dai Qingfeng asked, Luowen's voice was heard. Let's go out to greet him." Lin Kaiyun's ears moved. In addition to Luowen shouting, he also heard the sound of wind and flow. It must be that the real master has arrived. Seeing Lin Kaiyun walking leisurely towards the cave above, Dai Qingfeng paused for a moment, and then immediately ran to catch up. 10 minutes later, the two walked to the outside of the cave. When Luowen saw Lin Kaiyun's figure, he kept waving his hand, and his other hand was not idle either, pointing at the Tai Chi talisman he drew. His fingers kept shaking as if he had Parkinson's syndrome, and he shouted in shock, "Master Lin, look, not only the talisman paper is on fire, but even the soil next to it is burning." It can be seen that the Tai Chi seal that Lin Kaiyun asked Luowen to draw casually was burning with a green flame at this time. At the same time, there seemed to be a layer of green smoke floating at the edge of the flame. This green smoke seemed to be mixed with the soil, like a tornado, and turned into straight smoke, flying directly to the sky. At the same time, above the sky, a group of clouds gathered, as if in response to the smoke, slowly drifting here. This cloud seemed to appear suddenly, and it was very inconsistent with the cloudless sky, giving people a weird feeling that was out of tune. Boom! The cloud floated directly above Lin Kaiyun and others, and there was a rumbling thunder in it. The sound was extremely harsh, making everyone feel very uncomfortable, and they couldn't help but want to cover their ears, including Lin Kaiyun. Is the thunder from the thunder god or the thunder general? But this harsh sound is definitely made on purpose. Is this a show of strength? Lin Kaiyun covered his ears, frowned, and looked slightly unhappy. However, Dai Qingfeng and Luowen on the side did not have such a feeling. They only felt that this was the pressure of the gods. Luowen was so scared that he immediately covered his ears and knelt down. At the same time, he reached out and pulled Dai Qingfeng beside him, and hurriedly shouted, "Boss Dai, why are you still standing there? Hurry up and kneel down. This great master Lin has invited the gods. What if we are not respectful enough and make the gods angry and run away?" Dai Qingfeng was originally stunned by the clouds and thunder in the sky. When he heard Luowen's reminder, he hurriedly knelt down like Luowen, fearing that he would really anger the gods who came. Of course, they also saw that Lin Kaiyun did not kneel down, but even if they had the courage, they would not dare to care about Lin Kaiyun. At this time, in the clouds above them, a majestic and magnificent voice came. "This god is the fifth thunder general of Leigong. Today, I received the sacrifice text for killing demons, and I came to help." This voice was like a bolt from the blue, and it was transmitted to the ears of Lin Kaiyun and the other two like thunder. If the previous vision had made Luowen and Dai Qingfeng dare not have any disrespectful thoughts, then after this majestic voice reached their ears, for Luowen and Dai Qingfeng, it was no longer just a matter of treating him as a god. They knew 100% that it was the god himself who had descended. Even Luowen started praying, muttering, "God, it's working, God, it's working. You must bless me to go back alive and smoothly this time, and bless me to get rich and open a mercenary gang." The herd mentality of people is a very interesting feature. Dai Qingfeng, who was originally rational, heard Luowen's constant mumbling and petitioning, and at the same time thought of his current situation. He didn't care about anything else and also petitioned, "God, please show your power. I hope I can find the sacred tree this time and heal my arm. If my dream really comes true, I will go back and worship your god, burn incense every day, and worship every day." Lin Kaiyun's eyes turned, his eyebrows were still furrowed. He didn't feel annoyed by the muttering of Dai Qingfeng and Luowen behind him, but that this descending thunder general was a little strange. Thunder generals are small gods under the thunder god. Usually, there are many such thunder generals under the thunder god. After all, the thunder god is responsible for thunder. If there is only one thunder god, he will be too busy. Besides, it would be embarrassing for Lei Gong to do the physical work of striking the thunder hammer himself. How can he survive in the god realm in the future? So in fact, the thunder heard in various places every day is all the responsibility of the thunder generals under Lei Gong. And the gods in the sky who are related to thunder are generally very irritable, so Lin Kaiyun can understand the sound like thunder and the behavior of deliberately piercing the ears of the three people, but the clouds have been floating over for more than 2 minutes, and the god who claims to be the thunder general has not shown up and has been hiding in the clouds. Lin Kaiyun stared at the clouds above him, with a gleam in his eyes, trying to see the true face of the thunder general in the clouds, but after all, there was a large amount of clouds gathering, and no matter how strong his visual sense was, he couldn't see it. Mortals below, I am the fifth god general under the command of Thunder God. I came here after receiving the sacrificial text. Why don't you answer me? Are you trying to play a trick on me? The sound of thunder was heard again in the clouds, and it was even louder than last time. It felt like Thunder God was angry. Luoan and Dai Qingfang were startled by the louder thunder. They were uneasy and stopped praying. They began to apologize non-stop. God, spare my life, spare my life, it's none of our business, calm down, Thunder God, calm down. These two guys changed their faces. They were praying and petitioning before, and now they apologized immediately. However, Lin Kaiyun could understand it. After all, an ordinary mortal would be at a loss when seeing such a scene of the gods coming. Maybe I think too much? After all, there are all kinds of personalities among the gods and thunder generals. Lin Kaiyun smiled and shook his head. Maybe he was too worried. Then Lin Kaiyun bowed to the clouds in the sky and said, "Young man from Maotian, Lin Kaiyun greets the fifth thunder general. I just sent up the sacrificial text. There is a fish monster in this underground lake. Lord Thunder General, please enforce justice on behalf of heaven and kill this fish monster." After Lin Kaiyun finished speaking, there was a response from the clouds. A small fish monster is naturally no problem for this god general, but do you have any merits from burning incense? Why didn't this god general get them? Merits from burning incense. Lin Kaiyun smiled secretly in his heart. When did he prepare merits from burning incense? When he performed the art of summoning gods. To be precise, people from Maotian usually don't need to prepare merits from burning incense when they perform the art of summoning gods. After all, who told them that they have people above them? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230. Don't gods have job training? Although Lin Kaiyun and the people of Maotian have always done this, they can't say it directly, so Lin Kaiyun said half-heartedly, "Respected General Lei, I am a disciple of Maotian, and this time the journey is very hurried, so I can't raise incense and merits. Please forgive me." Lin Kaiyun's words reached the clouds, and when General Lei heard it, he was instantly furious. What? You mortals used sacrificial texts to invite General Lei to come down to the world to kill monsters, but you don't even prepare incense and merits? Do you want to taste the thunder punishment of General Lei? In the clouds, thunder rolled, and lightning flashed from under the clouds continuously. Lightning flashed on a sunny day, which was obviously the appearance of divine punishment in everyone's concept. Of course, the crackling lightning in the clouds was indeed a little weaker. Although it scared Luoan and Dai Qingfang enough, it did not bring any psychological burden to Lin Kaiyun at all. Instead, it made his already dispelled vigilance resurrected. Respected Thunder General, I am a disciple of Maotian. The founder of Maotian, San Mao Zhengying, serves in the palace of Taishang Laojian. I should be an old acquaintance of your Thunder God. Lin Kaiyun bowed to the clouds in the sky and repeated it again, emphasizing the name of Maotian and its founder, Maotian Zhengying. I don't care who your founder is. I have never heard of San Mao Zhengying, nor have I seen him. If you don't have the merits of incense, I will not help you kill the demon, and I will punish you for blaspheming me. The clouds were mixed with lightning and thunder. The Thunder General invited by Lin Kaiyun threatened Lin Kaiyun angrily. Brother Lin, what should we do? What kind of merits and virtues does the god want? Can we give it to him later? Yes, Master Lin. The gods are already angry. Let's apologize first and pray for their forgiveness. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, who had been kneeling on the ground, panicked in an instant, and were terrified out of their wits. Then, both of them kowtowed and apologized at the same time. Respected gods, please don't be angry, we know we were wrong. Luoan, who was kneeling beside Dai Qingfeng, raised his sword high above his head and shouted pitifully, God, please calm down. I don't know what you mean by incense and merit. You see, the most valuable thing I have now is this sword. Take it if you want it. Listening to the chattering of Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, Lin Kaiyun felt annoyed and couldn't stand it anymore. He cursed loudly with a cold face, shut your mouths. If I hear you praying or begging for mercy again, I promise to tear your mouths off before that damn Thunder General brings down the thunder punishment. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan were shocked by the angry Lin Kaiyun, and then they showed more surprised expressions on their faces. First, they were indeed frightened by Lin Kaiyun's expression, and second, they actually heard Lin Kaiyun directly insult the gods in the sky. Although they had seen Lin Kaiyun's magical strength and knew that Lin Kaiyun was not an ordinary person like them, but he dared to insult the gods directly in front of the gods who came down to earth. This move simply broke Dai Qingfeng and Luoan's outlook on life. In this world, everyone believes that there are gods above their heads, and there are zombies and demons and monsters, so there are gods for sure. And there are many stories and examples reminding everyone. Of course, as a disciple of Maoshan, Lin Kaiyun, who has repeatedly used the art of inviting gods, knows better that there are really gods. At the same time, there are many, such as their Maoshan ancestor San Mao Zhengying, who did not enter the underworld, but instead cultivated to the realm of truth, obtained the right fruit, and obtained the position of God. However, Lin Kaiyun mocked the Thunder General in his words, not because the ancestor San Mao Zhengying had obtained the status of a god, so he had someone to back him up and was not afraid of anyone. Rather, Lin Kaiyun found that the god who claimed to be the fifth Thunder General was really unruly, and his words and deeds did not look like a god at all, which made the always suspicious Lin Kaiyun even more suspicious. Immediately, Lin Kaiyun stared at the Thunder General who was hidden in the clouds and asked loudly, "Excuse me, respected Thunder General, are you really the Thunder God, the Thunder General under your command? Why did you accept my sacrificial text and then ask for a higher price? Besides, you were entrusted by the sacrificial text to kill the monsters, and you will gain some merits." Lin Kaiyun did not hide anything, nor did he use any euphemistic words. He spoke directly and questioned the Thunder General in the clouds. As expected, Lin Kaiyun's words completely angered the Thunder General in the clouds. "Damn mortal, you speak to me in this tone, do you want to die? Do you believe that I can chop you into pieces with a thunderbolt?" The Thunder General angrily insulted Lin Kaiyun, and at the same time, the thunderbolts under the clouds became more dense, as if they were going to strike down and strike Lin Kaiyun and the other two. But it seemed to confirm the saying that thunder is loud but raindrops are small. The thunderbolts under the clouds were dense and loud, but no thunderbolt fell. It was very well controlled, which was obviously inconsistent with the threat of the angry Thunder General. However, Lin Kaiyun smiled slightly at this scene, without any surprise, as if everything was under control. In fact, from the moment when the Thunder General threatened to strike Lin Kaiyun with thunderbolts, Lin Kaiyun knew that there must be something wrong with the Thunder General in the clouds. You should know that the art of inviting gods actually means literally, inviting gods to come down to earth to help, and the sacrificial text is like a contract, which has made everything clear. If you are not interested, you don't have to accept the sacrificial text. Therefore, as long as the gods accept the sacrificial text, they have already agreed to the conditions, and coming down to ask is just a formality. Therefore, it is basically impossible for the gods who come down to earth to help to increase the price temporarily. Moreover, because of the existence of the sacrificial text, if the gods really come down to earth, they will not be able to harm the performers of the art of inviting gods. Even if they are accidentally injured, they will be severely punished. In this cloud layer, the so-called Thunder General actually violated two taboos. Not only did he change his mind temporarily and ask the performer of the art of inviting gods, but he also increased the price and threatened the performer. Lin Kaiyun couldn't imagine this situation. It was as if the Thunder General in the cloud layer had never heard of it and had never accepted the sacrificial text. It was even more outrageous than a novice. Is it possible that there is no job training among these gods? Lin Kaiyun couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Of course, he was just daydreaming. It was impossible for someone who is qualified to obtain the status of a god to make such a low-level mistake. Chapter 231, Struck by Thunder. Since there was something wrong with the Thunder General who came down from the clouds, Lin Kaiyun was no longer polite. He was very sure that the confused god in the clouds would not dare to do anything to him, because even without the constraints of the contract, all gods would not dare to kill mortals in the world at will, otherwise the world would have been in chaos. The Thunder General up there, I will call you Thunder General for now. Let's be frank, I don't believe in your identity. Lin Kaiyun confidently put his hands behind his back and did not look up at the high clouds, but paced on the spot, while saying calmly, "Respected Thunder General, I guess you may not know the concept of the art of inviting gods in the sacrificial text. Let me explain it to you. Who exactly passed down this art of inviting gods? I don't know. Anyway, it's very old. Normally, all gods who have obtained the throne should know this way of communicating with the mortal world as the only way, and once the gods receive the sacrificial text, they must perform it. In other words, you must help me destroy this fish monster, and the sacrificial text burned 9 times, and the last one burned, it's done, which means it has been handed over, and you should have received it. But I don't understand why you seem to be unable to understand the content of the sacrificial text. However, now you have only 2 possible outcomes. The first is that you have received the sacrificial text, but violated the rules set by the art of summoning gods, and you will be punished by cause and effect. The second is that you did not receive the sacrificial text, but I don't know what means you used to deceive me and let the sacrificial text burn out, making me mistakenly believe that the summoning of gods was successful, thereby realizing your ulterior motive. If this is the case, then I can only say that you have miscalculated, and you also use heavenly thunder to threaten us mortals in the world, which is an even greater crime. Lin Kaiyun raised 2 fingers to the clouds in the sky and explained in detail the sins that this Thunder General had committed. Then he raised his head, a sly smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he said very seriously, "In short, no matter what the reason, I will definitely add another sacrificial text and report to the heavenly court for all the sins you have committed today." Things have changed, and now it is Lin Kaiyun's turn to threaten the Thunder General in the clouds. Why are there so many rules and regulations? Why is it so complicated? The Thunder General in the cloud muttered subconsciously. Of course, the Thunder General did not realize that no matter how quiet his voice was, it could be heard by Lin Kaiyun and the other 2, unless the Thunder General only thought without making any sound. Of course, it was too late now, and the Thunder General's muttering had been heard by Lin Kaiyun. At this moment, Lin Kaiyun could not help laughing in his heart. No matter what was in the cloud, as long as it came from the sky, he had already taken the initiative at this moment and was completely sure of victory. However, the Thunder General in the cloud was not ready to give in because of Lin Kaiyun's warning. "Damn mortal, don't deceive this Thunder General. I have already seen through your nonsense. Now I will send down thunder to punish you." There were still bursts of thunder in the clouds, and the lightning flashed under the clouds, as if it could strike down at any time. However, Lin Kaiyun was not panicked at all. He even straightened his chest, took 2 steps, and laughed at the clouds above. Come on, check if this position is directly below the lightning. I walked over by myself, so you don't need to aim. Just strike quickly. I will use my life to exchange for your loss of divinity." At this moment, Lin Kaiyun demonstrated very professionally what it means to be barefoot and not afraid of those wearing shoes. Lin Kaiyun was sure that the thing in the clouds would never risk losing his divinity to attack him. "Damn mortal, you dare to laugh at this Thunder General like this, then you will be annihilated by the thunder?" The Thunder General roared angrily in the clouds, and then a thick thunder struck down from under the clouds, targeting Lin Kaiyun. When Lin Kaiyun saw that there was really thunder striking down, a trace of surprise flashed across his face. He also did a lot of ideological work in his heart, and finally decided not to hide. However, Dai Qingfang and Luon, who were kneeling on the side, were so scared that they could not care about anything else. They only thought about escaping. They used their best skills, such as somersaults and rolling on the ground. They used whatever posture was fast. Although they looked very embarrassed when running away, they did not forget to remind Lin Kaiyun in the process and ran away quickly. "Brother Lin, be careful. Why don't you run quickly? Master Lin, why don't you listen to me? How can we mortals mess with gods? If you apologized earlier, maybe you wouldn't end up like this." But Lin Kaiyun seemed not to hear any reminders. He put his hands behind his back very calmly, stood straight with his head raised, and smiled at the lightning that fell from the sky. At this moment, he seemed to be a pioneer who was willing to die. If it was said that Lin Kaiyun's mysterious Taoist skills made Dai Qingfang and Luo and respect and fear him before, now they really admired Lin Kaiyun from the bottom of their hearts. After all, when the gods came, he dared to curse at the gods, and faced the thunder without fear. This kind of courage and bravery, in the words of an old saying, is that when you win, you should not be overjoyed, and when you lose, you should not be discouraged. If you have thunder in your chest and your face is as calm as a lake, you can be worshipped as a general. Of course, Lin Kaiyun is not the kind of person who knows that he will die but still does not know the time and insists on it. He does not run at this time just because he has full confidence. Crack, the lightning in the air is like a long snake that devours everything. It shuttles rapidly and soon reaches the top of Lin Kaiyun's head. Lin Kaiyun can even smell the smell of burnt air. Just when Dai Qingfang and Luo thought that Lin Kaiyun was struck into ashes by the thunder suddenly stopped 3 inches above Lin Kaiyun's head, and it was so awkwardly suspended in the air, as if it was fake. Huh? Lin Kaiyun smiled easily when he saw this scene, and he was relieved in his heart. Although he was absolutely confident, nothing was absolute. If there was a little mistake, he would be seriously injured if not dead. Fortunately, there was no accident. Lin Kaiyun took a step and avoided the direction of the thunder. Although he knew that the thunder would not move again. No one would think that if there was a thunder on his head all the time, if the god general trembled, wouldn't it be a waste to be struck? Lin Kaiyun, who avoided the thunder, slightly raised his head to the clouds, and slowly said, "Respected Thunder General, your thunder did not strike down, which means that I was right. Can we have a good talk now?" Chapter 232. Is this the attitude of asking for help? Lin Kaiyun's voice was very calm, just like his usual speech, but at this moment it resounded between heaven and earth, making Dai Qingfang and Luo feel that it was even more deafening than the thunder before. Lin Kaiyun not only insulted the gods, but also survived under the gods' thunder, and even wanted to negotiate with the gods with an arrogant look on his face. This was a scene that Dai Qingfang and Luo could never imagine in their dreams. The next scene that was even more unimaginable for them appeared. The gods who came down from the clouds really gave in. "Mortal, tell me your conditions. What can you do to avoid appealing to the heavens?" The thunder general in the clouds softened his tone a lot, and his voice was not as deafening as before. "Oh, you don't want me to appeal to the heavens? Yes, so you want to hear my conditions? That's right, that means you have something to ask of me, almost." Lin Kaiyun and the thunder general in the clouds talked to each other in a question and answer manner. However, after asking a few questions, Lin Kaiyun's face turned cold instantly, and then he shouted at the clouds with a scolding tone, "Is this your attitude of begging? You are so high up that you dare not even show your true face? Do you have other conspiracies? If so, I will definitely indicate this matter in the memorial text of the appeal later." Lin Kaiyun not only shouted like a scold, but also threatened. Lin Kaiyun's attitude made the gods in the clouds very embarrassed, and their attitude became serious again. "Mortal, you are too much. You dare to insult this thunder general again and again." Listening to the thunder in the clouds, Lin Kaiyun smiled nonchalantly, stretched out 5 fingers above, and counted down, 5, 4, 3, 2, just when Lin Kaiyun was about to count 1, the clouds above that gathered together and blocked the view gradually dissipated, revealing the true face of the god who claimed to be the thunder general. The projection of the god standing above the clouds actually looked like a small animal, with a lion's head, a pair of deer horns on its head, a pair of tiger eyes under the horns, and scales like a dragon on its lost body. There was an ox tail attached to the back, swaying gently, like a dragon flying. Lin Kaiyun was surprised when he saw the figure in the clouds. What kind of thunder general is this? Is this a Qilin, lion head, deer horns, tiger eyes, elk body, dragon scales, ox tail? This is clearly the appearance of a Qilin. Dai Qingfang and Luo, who had escaped to the side, were also stunned. Luo rubbed his eyes desperately and shouted in confusion, "This god actually looks like a beast." Dai Qingfang saw Luo's ignorant look and couldn't help but correct him. "What beast? This is clearly a Qilin, okay? It's a divine beast and an auspicious beast." Lin Kaiyun was also very surprised. He had suspected many possibilities before, but he never thought it was a Qilin. "If I'm not mistaken, you should be a little Qilin. Are you really a thunder general?" It's not Lin Kaiyun's fault for asking so rashly. The main reason is that it is difficult for beasts to obtain the status of gods, whether it is an auspicious beast or a divine beast, it's the same, so it is almost impossible for Qilin to be a thunder general under the thunder god in the sky. The Qilin on the cloud controlled the cloud and lowered its altitude a little. Since it had revealed its true identity, there was no need to hide it anymore. It opened its mouth and spoke in human language. Okay, I admit that I was wrong. I'm not the fifth thunder general who I pretended to be, because there was no intention of hiding it anymore. The human language spoken by the Qilin this time did not sound like the previous thunder. However, the voice was still different from that of humans. It was very loud, like a confident strong man shouting at the top of his voice. After hearing the explanation of the Qilin, Lin Kaiyun nodded secretly, and then asked curiously, "Sure enough, it's not general, eh? Then how did you receive my sacrificial text?" After hearing Lin Kaiyun's question, the Qilin beast in the cloud shook its head cutely, and answered Lin Kaiyun very honestly, "The sacrificial text you are talking about is the piece of paper. My master received the paper, but he glanced at it and threw it aside. I fiddled with it for a while out of curiosity, and then it came down inexplicably." After hearing this answer, Lin Kaiyun's mouth twitched unhappily. So his art of inviting gods was equivalent to failure? According to the meaning of the Qilin's words, the real host who invited the sacrificial text was very disgusted and threw it aside, but it was picked up by its pet, who came down to the world to act like a big shot, and he was almost deceived. When Lin Kaiyun thought of this, he felt a blockage in his chest and was very uncomfortable. Thinking of him, Lin Kaiyun had been roaming the world with a heroic spirit. When had he ever suffered such a loss? No, I can't do such a thing. Lin Kaiyun made a decision in his heart, and then pretended not to mind. He looked up at the little Qilin on the cloud and said calmly, "I guess you did all this behind your master's back, right? I have heard that if the divine beasts and pets in the sky secretly come down to the earth without the master's knowledge, they will definitely be punished when they return. I heard that basically, they will be imprisoned for thousands or tens of thousands of years." Lin Kaiyun spoke easily, with a gloating tone. At the same time, he raised his eyebrows while speaking, secretly observing the expression of the little Qilin. Of course, there was really no expression on the face of the Qilin, but the little guy was still too young. Maybe his face was naturally dull, but the fear was immediately revealed. The little Qilin kept stamping his hooves on the clouds, and hurriedly shouted, "No, no, 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 please don't, I agree to whatever you say." As Lin Kaiyun thought, the little Qilin might have some ideas about other punishments, but they were definitely not deep. However, the little Qilin was very afraid of being in prison for thousands or tens of thousands of years. "Oh, you said it." Lin Kaiyun was very happy in his heart. His calculations succeeded, but his expression was calm, as if he didn't care about the promise of the little Qilin at all. Lin Kaiyun coughed twice and stated his conditions. "First of all, since you are the pet of the heavenly thunder general and a divine beast Qilin, you must have good abilities. You have to help me get rid of this fish monster in the underground lake." After hearing Lin Kaiyun's conditions, the little Qilin on the cloud quickly agreed, "No problem, it's under that hole over there, right? I can feel it, I can handle it. Wait a minute, listen patiently, I haven't finished yet." A playful smirk appeared on Lin Kaiyun's lips. Chapter 233 Splitting the Underground Lake. The little Qilin on the cloud was completely unaware of the seriousness of the situation. After Lin Kaiyun stopped him, he did not interrupt him again, but patiently listened to Lin Kaiyun's conditions. Having leverage is really useful. Lin Kaiyun was very satisfied when he saw that the little Qilin on the cloud was actually obedient. Then, Lin Kaiyun extended his second finger and continued, "The second condition is," just as Lin Kaiyun was about to speak, he suddenly realized a problem, and then put down his hand very naturally, and managed his facial expression very well, and said with an open-minded look, "How about this? You go and get rid of the fish monster in the underground lake first, and we'll talk about the others later." The little Qilin on the cloud jumped up happily when he heard Lin Kaiyun's words, mistakenly thinking that Lin Kaiyun was ready to let him go, and nodded hurriedly, "No problem, I'll get that monster right away." Then, the cloud suddenly left a dazzling lightning, which came out from under the cloud and turned around, as if looking for something. Lin Kaiyun naturally guessed that this little Qilin pretending to be the Thunder General should be looking for the specific location of the fish monster. Of course, Lin Kaiyun knew that the fish monster was in the underground lake and had told the little Qilin before, but at this time Lin Kaiyun would not say too much. He believed that the little Qilin on the cloud had his own way to get rid of the fish monster. Sure enough, not long after, the direction of the lightning that came out from under the cloud pointed directly to the underground lake in the cave. Suddenly, the little Qilin on the cloud stepped on its front hoof, and its figure quickly shrank. It rushed forward and stood on the lightning that came out, and flew towards the cave at a very fast speed. At the same time, Lin Kaiyun saw that the little Qilin had already flown into the cave. He raised two fingers, and a stream of spiritual energy shot out and hit directly on the Tai Chi mark drawn by Luoan. I saw that the talisman paper with the sun's side barret unexpectedly reappeared, and at the same time, a phantom appeared and connected with Lin Kaiyun's spiritual energy. Hurry up and follow the command. Go! Lin Kaiyun flipped his fingers upwards and shouted loudly. Swish! There was only a sound of rapid wind, and the talisman paper, like a fighter jet taking off, flew towards the cave at the speed of light, and Lin Kaiyun's body was also pulled and flew towards the cave. In a moment, Lin Kaiyun's figure disappeared outside the cave. At this time, Dai Qingfang and Luoan on the side were stunned. Looking at each other, Luoan asked in confusion, Boss Dai, what should we do? Should we follow him down? Dai Qingfang nodded very affirmatively. Of course we should follow him down. This is a rare scene in this life. That unicorn-like god is about to help us kill the monster. After that, Dai Qingfang ran into the cave with a look of yearning, and Luoan reacted and immediately followed. In the cave passage, the Qiren projection, which had shrunk many times, rode the lightning and went down all the way. Lin Kaiyun was also fast, following the soil that Luoan had ordered to spread before, and was speeding down at a high speed. At the same time, every time he passed a drop of blood, he would trigger a burst of acceleration, which also allowed Lin Kaiyun to closely follow the little Qiren riding the lightning. In the blink of an eye, the passage that Lin Kaiyun and the other two had walked for a long time before was quickly passed through and reached the edge of the underground lake. The little Qiren returned to its original size and was still floating in the air, staring at the inside of the underground lake. The pair of piercing tiger eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. At the same time, Lin Kaiyun was also dragged here by the talisman paper. He did not disturb the little Qiren, but walked aside and rested on the blue brick. Lin Kaiyun fiddled with his hair that was messed up by the wind, took 2 long breaths, and adjusted his breathing. Just now, it looked like the talisman was dragging Lin Kaiyun to run, but in fact, it was Lin Kaiyun's own spiritual power that drove it, so it took a lot of physical strength. Soon, the little Qilin should have discovered a trace of the fish monster, raised its right front paw, and gently scratched it. I saw that above the underground lake, a not-so-big cloud appeared, and then the little Qilin jumped on the cloud, opened its mouth, and roared to the sky. But Lin Kaiyun did not hear any roar, but heard a magnificent and loud thunder. The sound was extremely loud, especially in this almost closed cave, which made people feel deafening. Then, the not-so-big cloud hanging underground on the lake emitted a dazzling light and a lot of crackling sounds. In an instant, Lin Kaiyun felt a sharp pain in his eyes, and a thunderbolt struck from the cloud and landed directly above the underground lake. Suddenly, the surface of the underground lake was flashing and jumping with arcs of lightning, and the entire underground lake was covered with lightning, and the momentum was very terrifying. Compared with this, the thunder method that Lin Kaiyun used to injure the fish monster before was nothing. There was no comparison at all. Lin Kaiyun squinted his eyes and looked at the little Qilin roaring to the sky in the clouds. He couldn't help but admire it. Such a small Qilin has such a strong power. It is worthy of coming from the sky. It is different. On the surface of the underground lake, arcs of lightning kept jumping. The black fish that Lin Kaiyun had caught on the lake before all floated up with their bellies turned up. At the same time, countless fish and shrimps with strange shapes were also electrocuted and floated up. Just when Lin Kaiyun was expecting the fish monster to float up, there was another explosion in the clouds. Another thick thunder struck the surface of the lake. The sound and momentum were even more exaggerated than the first thunder. The power of the second thunderbolt was also very huge. Not only did it cause a larger arc of lightning to appear on the surface of the lake, but the lightning also contained a trace of divine power that Lin Kaiyun could sense. It actually split the entire underground lake into 2, and the water on both sides could not get together. Damn, it actually split the entire underground lake. This is just a pet of the gods in the sky. If the gods come in person, what kind of power would it be? Lin Kaiyun looked at the huge gap in the underground lake, and his mind was unconsciously shocked. He had also performed the art of summoning gods before, but it was very simple for those gods to expel some monsters. So his senses and appearance were not as shocking as this little Kaiyun. Because of this, Lin Kaiyun could not compare the gods and how powerful they were. However, at this moment, this little Kaiyun could prove it, and it also allowed Lin Kaiyun to get a glimpse of the so-called god's strength. Chapter 234 Wait, I'm coming. Inside the cave, the underground lake was filled with a sound of thunder. The lightning arcs that kept jumping on the lake's surface attacked all the creatures in the lake indiscriminately, even the water was no exception, and was burned by the heat of the lightning. At this time, the gap in the underground lake split by the thunder expanded larger and larger. Lin Kaiyun, who was standing aside, could even see the silt accumulated under the underground lake. As his sight turned, Lin Kaiyun saw a huge reef in the underground lake. The reef was surrounded by water plants and the middle was hollow. A black fish with a black body and full of scales was hiding in the hollow reef, revealing half of its huge head, with an injured eye, and looking at the split lake water vigilantly. At this time, the black fish monster saw the clouds floating above the lake and Lin Kaiyun, who was watching the excitement on the shore. It kept opening its fishy mouth, breathing, and making indescribable strange noises. Lin Kaiyun hugged his shoulders and walked a few steps towards the shore. He looked at the somewhat panicked fish monster and said jokingly, "Hey, you're awake. How about this way of waking you up? Do you like it?" Squeak. The fish monster screamed in fear. Its huge body kept shaking in the reef, looking restless. Finally, it bent its body like a panicked bird. It escaped and rushed into the lake in an attempt to escape. However, the little unicorn on the cloud, with a pair of shiny tiger eyes, seemed to be a radar, and locked onto the fish monster early. When the fish monster just escaped from the reef, another lightning struck. This lightning was equally powerful. It ignored the obstruction of the water flow and went straight into the lake. Squeak. The fish monster felt a fierce and violent attack coming, twisted its body in fear, and dodged the attack of the lightning with its own speed. The lightning struck the bottom of the lake, instantly blasting the silt and reefs into pieces. However, the little Kaiyun hanging above the underground lake roared in displeasure at this time. It was obvious that the fish monster actually escaped under his thunder attack, which made the little Kaiyun very angry. Suddenly, a strong wind blew in the cave, blowing up countless floating dust and gravel, as well as water droplets from the underground lake. Thunder sounded more frequently above the clouds, and golden light suddenly appeared in an instant, with extraordinary power. Then another lightning fell from the clouds and struck the fish monster in the underground lake. This attack flashed with golden light, and the divine power was even more powerful, making the fish monster swimming in the lake to avoid it terrified, desperately shaking its body, and the fish tail of the same size. But this thunder flashing with golden light, as if it was an accurate guide, tracking the direction of the fish monster. Suddenly, this thunder flashing with golden light suddenly accelerated, like lightning, and directly entangled the fish monster that was escaping. Boom! When the golden lightning entangled the fish monster, the clouds above the underground lake shook a few times, and strong winds kept blowing out, as if responding to the golden lightning. The wind blades and the arcs intertwined, like a beast's claw, and grabbed the black fish monster directly from the lake. Squeak. The fish monster kept struggling, trying to break free, but it was obviously dreaming. The giant hand formed by the wind blades and the arcs kept attacking the fish monster. The more it struggled, the more fiercely it attacked. The fish monster screamed in pain. At this moment, there was no good place on his body. Every part of him was bleeding and was charred by the arcs. He was dying. It was estimated that even his soul was shattered by the golden thunder. At this time, Lin Kaiyun, who had been quietly standing aside without making any sound, waved to the little Kaiyun in the cloud and shouted, "Wait a minute, that's enough, leave this fish monster to me." The little Kaiyun on the cloud understood. Although Lin Kaiyun's words were a bit strange, he didn't understand why Lin Kaiyun asked for this dying fish monster. Why did he want this dying fish monster? Of course, it was for the merit points. Lin Kaiyun looked at the fish monster thrown on the shore with eager eyes, and happily took out the 7-star dragon abyss sword from his storage belt. Without hesitation, he straightened the long sword and stabbed it directly into the head of the fish monster. The fish monster, which was already dying and even had its soul shattered, did not struggle at all. Although this fish monster was tortured miserably before his death, it died relatively peacefully. At the moment when the fish monster died, the long-lost system voice sounded in Lin Kaiyun's mind. Ding, Congratulations to the host, you have killed a level 5 blackfish monster and gained 2000 merit points. Listening to this pleasant voice, Lin Kaiyun silently chanted, open the system. Host, Lin Kaiyun, current realm, level 4, refining the body into ki, merit points. 95,350 points, skills, Yang Wulei, max level. Golden Light Curse, max level. 7 killing orders of gods and ghosts, killing order, Tongshan Lu, max level. Ghost Shadow Trace, minor success. Godhead Mask, 1/100. Demon Bow, Blood King of Hell, 7-star Sword Curse, 3/100. 8 Diagram Soft Fist. Collapse of Mountains and Earth Splitting Slash, minor success. Fenghou Qimen, max level. Treasures, 7-star Dragon Abyss Sword, growing form. 24 Bright Moon Knight Belt, storage, current identity, true disciple of Maotian sect, eldest disciple of Lin Jiu, disciple of the Horse Riding Immortal, master of the Horse Riding Immortal ranking, Sikon of the Soul Catching Division of the Underworld. The merit points required for the lottery are 60,000. The merit points required for upgrading are 100,000. After a period of accumulating merit points, Lin Kaiyun's current merit points have exceeded 90,000, which makes him a small rich man. More than 90,000. This time, the lottery requires 60,000 merit points. Should I draw? Lin Kaiyun fell into happy thinking. After thinking for a while, Lin Kaiyun still resisted the temptation to try his luck at turning a bicycle into a motorcycle, and decided to save more merit points to improve his strength. Then Lin Kaiyun exited the system. At this time, Dai Qingfang and Luoan ran over breathlessly, and saw the corpse of the fish monster on the ground, with a look of disappointment on their faces. Dai Qingfang and Luoan certainly knew that the fish monster was doomed to die, but what they regretted was that they did not see the process of the killing the monster. You know, this is something that mortals can rarely see in their lifetime, but after this time, they probably will never have the chance to see such a shocking scene again in their lives. Thinking of this, Dai Qingfang and Luoan felt more and more regretful. Chapter 235 Bloodletting. Brother Lin, is this the end? Is this fish monster dead? Dai Qingfang supported himself on his knees and looked at the corpse of the fish monster, panting. Lin Kaiyun put away the 7-star Dragon Abyss Sword, turned around and looked at the somewhat disappointed Dai Qingfang, spread out his hands, and asked jokingly, dead, but I heard that your tone seemed a little disappointed. What's the matter? Don't you want to go to the other side? Dai Qingfang took a breath, wiped the sweat from his cheeks, and quickly shook his head and waved his hands and said, no, you misunderstood, brother. It's a good thing that this fish monster died. I just regret that I couldn't see the scene of killing the monster. Luoan also nodded in agreement, grinning, panting, and muttering, indeed, Master Lin, this kind of scene may not be seen in this lifetime. Why did you act so quickly? Why didn't you wait for us too, huh? Hearing Luoan's somewhat complaining words, Lin Kaiyun snorted coldly and glared at Luoan with his eyes slanted. Luoan was startled by the old hum behind his back. He quickly covered his mouth and slapped himself a few times. He said apologetically, I'm sorry, Master Lin, I have this bad habit again, please don't mind it. Of course, Lin Kaiyun would not bother with him. If he really wanted to bother with him, the grass on Luoan's grave would probably be half a meter high. Lin Kaiyun no longer paid attention to Dai Qingfang and Luoan. He turned around and looked at the clouds floating above the underground lake. He said to the little Qilin on the clouds, thank you for your help, but let's talk about the matter. Since the fish monster has been solved, I will continue to talk about my conditions. What? Why are there still conditions? The little Qilin on the cloud was very surprised to hear that Lin Kaiyun still had to make conditions. The reason why this little Qilin was so imposing and working so hard when dealing with the fish monster before was because he thought Lin Kaiyun had no other conditions, so he returned the favor and the little Qilin dealt with the monster seriously. Unexpectedly, there were still requirements. If I had known, I wouldn't have worked so hard. How much will I have to eat to make up for it when I return to heaven? The little Qilin thought to himself, and continued to speak in human language, saying to Lin Kaiyun, I have also eliminated the monster for you. If you have any other conditions, please tell me quickly. I have to go back quickly, otherwise it will be troublesome if my master finds out. The wisdom of this little Qilin is about the same as that of a 13 or 14-year-old human. In addition, he has been living in the sky and has not experienced so many things or seen many people. so he is very innocent and honest. At the same time, he also knows that Lin Kaiyun now has a handle on him, so this little Qilin does not dare to step on the clouds and leave. Lin Kaiyun doesn't care what this little Qilin thinks. Anyway, since this little Qilin did not choose to run away, it belongs to Lin Kaiyun's dish, and he can eat it however he wants. Of course, you can't go too far. If you anger this little Qilin, it will be difficult to deal with. However, Lin Kaiyun had already made up his mind about what he wanted. He suddenly pretended to be injured, and used his spiritual power to make his face pale. At the same time, he raised his hand to cover his chest and said very weakly, "You may not understand, this art of summoning gods is very complicated. I am the caster, and you are not a god, nor your master. So after blindly accepting the sacrificial text, I have already been damaged, so I need something from you to help me make up for these injuries." The little Qilin standing on the cloud was stunned for a moment after hearing Lin Kaiyun's conditions, and then looked at his body with some confusion. He really didn't figure out what he had that could heal his wounds. "I don't understand what you mean. I don't have anything on my body, how can I heal you?" The little Qilin was very straightforward. He didn't doubt Lin Kaiyun's words at all, nor did he realize that Lin Kaiyun's injured appearance was all fake. Seeing the little Qilin's reaction, Lin Kaiyun smiled secretly in his heart. This reaction showed that the little Qilin had taken the bait. Then, Lin Kaiyun went straight to the point and continued to pretend to be depressed and said, "My injury belongs to the category of yin loss, which is a kind of yin hidden injury, so it needs something with strong yang qi to heal, such as your blood." When the word blood was heard, the little Qilin became alert, and the clouds he controlled rose a few degrees, and the hair on his tail exploded, and he shouted excitedly, "My blood? How much do you want? You don't want to bleed me, do you?" Seeing the little Qilin's excessive reaction, Lin Kaiyun almost couldn't help laughing, but finally held it back and explained very patiently, "How is it possible? Even if I have that intention, I can't beat you, right?" "That's right." The little Qilin thought about it and felt that it was indeed the case. The reason why it was facing Lin Kaiyun and making concessions again and again was because it had a handle, otherwise he could leave at any time, and Lin Kaiyun couldn't stop him at all. "Right, you are so strong, what are you afraid of? I only need a small bottle." "Right," Lin Kaiyun said step by step, hoping to get the little Qilin to agree. "Okay." After thinking for a while, the little Qilin agreed to Lin Kaiyun's conditions, and immediately controlled the clouds to fly in front of Lin Kaiyun. A hidden smile appeared on Lin Kaiyun's face, and then he couldn't wait to take out the 7-star dragon abyss sword, and gestured on the little Qilin's hoof, and asked, "Where are we from?" "Just claws. What do you think? It's useless for you to use this, it can't cut through my scales." The little Qilin was very humane and shook his head at Lin Kaiyun. "Really? My sword has a trace of dragon energy, and it can't cut through it? Let me try." "Okay." Lin Kaiyun was very curious, and put the blade of the 7-star dragon abyss sword against the little Qilin's claws, knocked the scales, and then slashed it violently. However, as if nothing happened, the blade of the 7-star dragon abyss sword scratched the little Qilin's scales, and even did not leave a trace. Lin Kaiyun immediately became interested in the scales on the little Qilin's body. "I didn't expect that the scales on your body are so strong." The little Qilin mistakenly thought that Lin Kaiyun was praising him and raised his head proudly. "Of course, my scales are very powerful, you mortals can't break them at all." "Can't break them? Then how can I bleed you?" Lin Kaiyun moved his gaze away from the scales of the little Qilin and shouted in confusion. Chapter 236 Happy Cooperation. Seeing Lin Kaiyun was surprised at the solidity of his scales, the little Qilin was even happier. He raised his right front paw, gently extended his nails, and gently scratched the hoof. The scales that were indestructible just now suddenly had a hole, and blood flowed out. The Qilin's blood was also red, but it was a little yellow, like magma about to erupt. Lin Kaiyun, who was close, could even feel the hot temperature contained in it. This Qilin blood is indeed a very yang thing. You can feel the temperature without touching it. Lin Kaiyun felt the heat coming towards him and couldn't help but sigh. Although he sighed, Lin Kaiyun didn't stop. He took out a sealed white bottle from his arms, handed it to the wound of the little Qilin, and collected the Qilin's blood without dropping a drop. The little Qilin saw that the bottle Lin Kaiyun was holding was indeed not big, and he was relieved. He gritted his teeth to make the blood flow faster in his body so that it could be filled quickly. The effect was obvious. In less than 2 minutes, the small porcelain bottle that Lin Kaiyun took out was full. Little Kaiyun lowered his head slightly and saw that the bottle was full. He said slowly, "Okay, it's full. I can leave now." "Wait." Lin Kaiyun quickly put the stopper on the bottle and quickly stuffed it into his arms, fearing that something unexpected would happen. Then, like a magic trick, Lin Kaiyun took out another identical bottle and pressed it directly on the wound before little Kaiyun could react, collecting blood again. When the little Kaiyun saw Lin Kaiyun take out another bottle, he thought something was wrong and wanted to break free, but was held down by Lin Kaiyun. He could only shout helplessly, "Mortal, what do you mean? Didn't you say to only take a small bottle?" Lin Kaiyun had no intention of stopping. This opportunity was too rare. Killing blood was not something you could find in this world. How could he let it go easily? He said shamelessly, "Yes. Take one small bottle after another. Besides, I'm seriously injured. How can this little amount be enough? Do you want me to be seriously injured and then complain to the heaven?" The little Kaiyun was originally prepared to break free by force, but when he heard Lin Kaiyun's threatening words, he immediately gave up. There was no other way. The little Kaiyun was like a fish on the felt board and could only be slaughtered by Lin Kaiyun. Even so, Lin Kaiyun was not polite at all. He didn't consider whether the little Kaiyun would be anemic at all. He took the bottles left and right. It was not until the fifth bottle was full that Lin Kaiyun nodded contentedly and said seriously, "That's it. These are barely enough to heal my wounds." When the little Kaiyun heard Lin Kaiyun's shameless words, he stumbled and almost fell on the clouds. "Forget it, it's all over anyway, I'll bear it," the little Kaiyun thought secretly in his heart, and then said weakly, "I have cooperated enough, I can leave now, and you won't write an obituary to complain again." Lin Kaiyun nodded and smiled, "Don't worry, you can go with peace of mind, I will naturally do what I say." Seeing that Lin Kaiyun finally let him go, the little Kaiyun immediately turned around and left. "Wait." However, Lin Kaiyun suddenly stopped the little Kaiyun and raised his hand to point. The scales on the wound on the little Kaiyun's hoof said, "I see that the scales near your wound are about to fall off. Anyway, they will fall off. So why not give them to me?" The little Kaiyun was afraid that Lin Kaiyun would go back on his word, and he was relieved when he heard Lin Kaiyun asking for the scales on his wound. However, the little Kaiyun immediately felt angry and felt that Lin Kaiyun, a mortal, was really greedy. After thinking about it, the little Kaiyun felt that so much blood had been shed before, and there was no need to care about it at this time. Then he raised his claws and directly bounced the scales that were about to fall off to Lin Kaiyun. Lin Kaiyun ignored the little Kaiyun's expression, steadily caught the scales that bounced over, waved to the little Kaiyun in a friendly manner, and smiled, "Okay, happy cooperation, I hope you take care, and I hope you will receive the sacrificial text next time." The little Kaiyun despised Lin Kaiyun fiercely in his heart, and disappeared directly on the cloud. Seeing that the little Kaiyun had left, Lin Kaiyun weighed the scales in his hand and touched the bottles of Kaiyun blood in his arms with his other hand. He was very satisfied with his harvest this time. At this time, Dai Qingfang and Luoan also dared to step forward. Dai Qingfang gave Lin Kaiyun a thumbs up and said with admiration, "Brother Lin, you are awesome, being able to perform the art of summoning gods and challenge the gods who had not appeared, even if it was finally proved that the one who came down this time was not a thunder general, but this little Kaiyun was from heaven after all." Lin Kaiyun not only let the little Kaiyun kill the fish monster, but also released 5 bottles of Kaiyun blood and extorted a few pieces of Kaiyun scales. In the minds of Dai Qingfang and Luoan, this was simply too awesome and unimaginable. "It's a small matter, not worth mentioning. Now we can go through." Not only have the fish monsters in the underground lake been eliminated, but this little Kaiyun has also thoughtfully helped us separate the lake water. Lin Kaiyun put the 5 bottles of Kaiyun blood and scales into the storage belt, and then turned to look at the other side of the underground lake. The gap in the underground lake that was previously blasted open by the little Kaiyun with thunder still exists. There are still jumping arcs of lightning on the lake, like 2 dams, still blocking the lake water on both sides, and forming a long and narrow path. Lin Kaiyun jumped down first and stepped on the mud and sand at the bottom of the lake. It felt very soft, like a sponge. Dai Qingfang and Luoan did not dare to delay and jumped down immediately. Walking on this forcibly separated path, looking at the lake water flowing like a wall on both sides, it feels very wonderful. The width of this underground lake is only more than 50 meters, but Lin Kaiyun and the other 2 walked at a fast speed, full of leisure, as if they were strolling around, like a certain landscape. But to be honest, although this road is only 50 meters long, Its spectacular beauty is much more shocking than those garden monuments. However, it also has a disadvantage, that is, it is not durable. The distance from one side to the other is enough for several people to appreciate the novelty, so they did not stay too long light playing, and directly climbed to the shore. The other side is also the same passage, and Lin Kaiyun and the other two have to go deeper. Because of the underground lake and the fish monsters, they were delayed for too long, so Lin Kaiyun was a little anxious, and hurried on the road as soon as he reached the other side. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Second Explosion. The passage on the other side of the underground lake looked exactly the same as the previous one, but it was farther from the cave entrance and there was almost no light. Lin Kaiyun still lit the talisman paper and walked forward with the help of the light of the small flame. Originally, this passage was a wooden frame with a blue brick structure. It looked the same for several miles. This kind of road is most likely to make people feel uneasy and irritable. In addition, there is no light in the passage on the other side, which makes everyone feel very depressed. Even Lin Kaiyun is like this, not to mention Dai Qingfang and Luoan, who are ordinary people. So Lin Kaiyun quietly cast a calming spell on the three of them. Of course, he did not say it clearly to avoid causing unnecessary panic. I don't know how long I walked like this, and suddenly there was no road in front of me. Dai Qingfang was so disappointed when he saw this scene. He patted the stone wall that blocked their way and shouted in panic, "Brother Lin, why is there no road? I want to know too. What's going on? Is the map wrong?" Lin Kaiyun frowned. He didn't know what was going on. He picked up the map and looked down. In fact, the place marked on the map was the entrance of the cave, and there was no mark on the route inside the cave. In other words, now that they encountered this situation, they could only rely on themselves to find a solution, or return by the original route. Of course, it goes without saying that returning by the original route was a result that Dai Qingfeng, who wanted to survive, could not accept even Lin Kaiyun. After all, he could not say that he had encountered difficulties and obstacles along the way, but he had not stopped. Including the underground lake before, he had spent a lot of effort to pass it. As a result, he lost all hope because of a dead end. This was something Lin Kaiyun could not accept. Luoan was not as disappointed as Dai Qingfeng. He was originally looking for excitement, and the excitement he received along the way was enough. Of course, it was not just exciting, Luoan was also hit hard. He always thought he was very brave, but he found out that he was the most useless among the three and was only fit for odd jobs. So seeing that this road was blocked, Luoan did not have any psychological burden, and even thought it was good to go back like this. Then he asked Lin Kaiyun in confusion, "Master Lin, what should we do now?" Although Luoan had an idea to go back in his mind, he did not dare to say it out loud. All kinds of things along the way made him shocked by Lin Kaiyun, and he was afraid that he would not doubt it at all. If he proposed this, he might be beaten again, and it was very likely that he would be beaten in the end, and he would not be able to leave. Would that be suffering in vain? After hearing Luoan's words, Lin Kaiyun smiled, looked at the stone wall in front of him, and said disdainfully, "What should I do? Since there is no way, then dig a way out. I will see if this is a mechanism or a dead end." Although there was no gap in the stone wall in front of him, and it did not look like the so-called mechanism stone door, but he would never let Lin Kaiyun go this way, and he would try to blow it up anyway. Dai Qingfang leaned against the stone wall, with his ear tilted to the side, trying to find out whether the stone wall was hollow or solid by listening to the sound. However, after hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, Dai Qingfang quickly leaned to the side and asked with some concern, "Explode in this passage? Brother Lin, this might easily cause a collapse. It is common sense that ZHA drugs cannot be used in caves and passages to cause collapse. Even if he wants to find a magic to heal his zombie arm, if Lin Kaiyun blows up the wall here and causes a collapse, he is probably dead now, not to mention looking for the sacred tree to save his life." Of course, Lin Kaiyun knew that it was easy to cause the cave passage to collapse, so he had already made this assumption. He looked at Dai Qingfang and explained, "I know it will cause a collapse, but I have my own means to deal with it, otherwise I would not have mentioned this matter, and you two don't have to worry, I can protect you two from being hit by the rocks, After saying this, Lin Kaiyun took out a pile of talisman paper from his arms, bit his fingertips and drew some complicated spells on them. To blast the rocks, it is not impossible for him to use various talismans mixed together to produce an explosion, but that would be very wasteful and more powerful. In case of failure, this powerful explosion might make it more troublesome to deal with, so Lin Kaiyun chose to draw some talismans with explosive properties on the spot. Although he had never made these talismans before, the theory was naturally very simple. As long as the original wind talisman was compressed, the explosion effect could be achieved, at least it was enough to blast the stone wall. You two, step back a little. I'm going to blow it up, Lin Kaiyun just informed them, and did not ask Dai Qingfeng and Luoan for their opinions, because he would do it regardless of whether they agreed or not. After Lin Kaiyun finished speaking, he directly clamped the talisman on his fingers and gently pasted it on the stone wall. The sky and the earth are boundless, and the universe borrows the law. Command. Lin Kaiyun flipped his hands, and the spiritual power shot out from his fingertips, accurately hitting the talisman on the paper. Bang! The talisman paper exploded instantly, and then caused a chain reaction, driving all the talismans pasted on the stone wall. Bang! Boom! More continuous and violent explosions followed, and the momentum was not much worse than the thunder that Xiao Qilin had used before. Of course, it was just the sound, and the power was actually much worse, but it was still no problem to use it to blow up the stone wall. With a loud bang, the entire passageway shook violently, and a large amount of rubble began to fall rapidly. At the same time, the explosion also formed a huge air wave, which seemed to have a physical body and blew directly towards Lin Kaiyun and the other two. Heaven and Earth Mysterious Sect, the root of all energy, cultivate all calamities, and prove my supernatural power, Golden Light Mantra. Lin Kaiyun's eyes flashed with golden light, and he waved a golden flame, blocking the three people like a barrier. However, the air waves blew over one after another continuously. At the same time, because Lin Kaiyun's barrier blocked the flow of the air waves, the repeatedly formed air waves were held in a short space, forming a secondary compression, and turned into an even more powerful explosion. In an instant, the entire passageway was blown up, and the air wave instantly broke through the barrier that Lin Kaiyun had set up with a golden light mantra, blowing Lin Kaiyun and the other two directly into the air. What's going on? How could there be a second explosion? Lin Kaiyun was obviously a little surprised. He had not thought about this situation, but now was not the time to care about it. If he didn't think of a solution, the three of them would probably be crushed under the rocks. Chapter 238. Are you considered an ordinary person? The entire cave shook violently, and there was no sign of weakening. This trend seemed to be expected to continue shaking for more than 10 minutes. However, by that time, it was estimated that Lin Kaiyun and the other two would have already become meat patties under the rubble. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan were blown extremely embarrassed by the blast, like a kite with a broken string, unable to control their bodies at all. Lin Kaiyun relied on his own strength to barely maintain his body shape in the air, and then stepped on the wall on one side, sticking to it like a gecko. At the same time, Lin Kaiyun stepped out with his other foot and tapped a few points, opened his hands, and shouted loudly, Bagua Palm, return to the sky. Then, a Bagua mark appeared under Lin Kaiyun's feet that only he could see, and it spun rapidly. At the same time, his two palms also hit intensively, scattering the surrounding airwaves and pushing the surrounding stones away. Lin Kaiyun took the initiative to find a breathing space. The opportunity should not be missed. He waved his hand and two flames were wrapped around Dai Qingfeng and Luoan's waists like a rope. Then Lin Kaiyun looked around, like a working camera, scanning everything around him. He was looking for a place to hide. After all, the violent airwaves of the second explosion broke all his previous plans. If he used the golden light mantra to cover his retreat according to the previous plan, it would be very easy to get into trouble again. Wait, is this a passage? Lin Kaiyun suddenly saw a narrow gap on the side. At the same time, looking inside, it seemed that there was still space. There was no time to think about it. Lin Kaiyun kicked his feet and rushed directly into the gap. At the same time, he used his arms to pull Dai Qingfeng and Luoan in quickly. Boom! The previous passage outside the gap could no longer withstand the sound of the explosion and the violent shaking. It collapsed completely. More huge rubble fell one after another, blocking the entire passage. Lin Kaiyun also dragged Dai Qingfeng and Luoan into the space in the gap, which turned out to be a passage, But this passage was more spacious, and there were no wooden frames and blue bricks. It was obviously a naturally formed passage. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan fell to the ground, panting and looking around, feeling lucky that they survived. Lin Kaiyun's tense nerves also relaxed, and he sat down on the ground and took a rest. After taking a few breaths, Dai Qingfeng supported himself and stood up. Looking at this unknown space, he was a little flustered. "Brother Lin, where is this place? The passage we came from is now blocked. How are we going to get out later?" Lin Kaiyun stood up after a while, patted the dust on his hands, and said slowly, "The previous passage was blocked tightly, and there is no hope of returning by the original route. Now we can only follow this way and see if we can find a way out, or find the sacred tree by accident." After Lin Kaiyun finished speaking, he was about to turn around and walk inside, but suddenly felt a chill on his neck. It turned out that Luoan put his big knife on Lin Kaiyun's neck. Dai Qingfeng, who was standing by, was startled by Luoan's action. He raised his hand, grabbed Luoan's arm, and hurriedly shouted to stop him. "Hey, Luoan, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Why are you pointing a knife at Brother Lin?" As a result, Luoan seemed to have not heard Dai Qingfeng's reminder, and directly pushed Dai Qingfeng aside, then pressed down with the big knife and chopped it towards Lin Kaiyun's neck. However, the big knife did not move at all, because Lin Kaiyun's fingers flashed with golden flames, and he had already blocked the big knife. "Interesting, you guys have touched something. How can you be controlled by resentment?" Lin Kaiyun looked at Luoan, expressionless. His eyes were red, and a trace of resentment emanated from his body. Luoan's appearance was obviously controlled by the erosion of resentment, otherwise even if he had the courage, he would not dare to point the knife at Lin Kaiyun. "Chi!" Lin Kaiyun bit his thumb and tapped directly between Luoan's eyebrows. A flash of red light flashed and Luoan's eyes immediately returned to normal. Luoan also regained consciousness, but when he saw that he was holding a big knife on Lin Kaiyun's neck, he was so scared that his legs went limp. He quickly put down the big knife and kept begging for mercy. "Master Lin, spare my life. I really didn't mean it, and I don't know what happened." Lin Kaiyun did not respond, but stretched out his palm towards Luoan. "Don't kill me, please, don't kill me, I really don't know what happened." Luoan saw Lin Kaiyun raising his palm towards him, thinking that he was going to slap him to death, so he cried and begged for mercy. As a result, Lin Kaiyun just patted Luoan on the shoulder and smiled. "I know you didn't mean it, don't be afraid, you are just disturbed by resentment." After Luoan heard what Lin Kaiyun said, he instantly felt that he was saved. He sat on the ground without any strength, and cold sweat on his forehead burst out. Dai Qingfeng, who was standing aside, saw that the misunderstanding was resolved and stopped talking about it. Instead, he asked about Lin Kaiyun's resentment. "Resentment? Brother Lin, are you saying there are ghosts here?" Lin Kaiyun smiled and shook his head, explaining, No, resentment is not equal to ghosts. It's just that the yin energy here is very heavy, and some people may have died, so resentment will arise, and some ordinary people are very likely to be disturbed by this resentment and do some irrational things. Dai Qingfeng nodded after hearing Lin Kaiyun's explanation. He understood the meaning, but he was still a little confused, and then asked, "Ordinary people are disturbed, so why is Luoan in trouble?" "But I am not." Lin Kaiyun glanced at Dai Qingfeng's zombie arm and joked, "Lift up your zombie arm and take a look. Are you also an ordinary person?" Dai Qingfeng smiled awkwardly after hearing what Lin Kaiyun said. Indeed, he was no longer an ordinary person. This matter itself was a misunderstanding, so it was over, and the three of them continued on their way. Now their first goal is to find the sacred tree, and the second goal is to find the exit. Although this passage is naturally formed, and there are many crooked stones blocking the way, it does not affect walking, and the strange thing is that this naturally formed passage is actually very long. Lin Kaiyun and the other two walked for more than 10 minutes before they felt a trace of wind blowing, and then came to a wide space. The temperature in this space is much lower than the previous passage, and the cold wind is blowing everywhere, making the three people feel a little cold unconsciously, but compared with a low temperature, the scene in front of them surprised them even more. Chapter 239, All the Way Up. This space is as big as a football field, which makes the three people who have been walking in the narrow passage feel a lot more comfortable, but the temperature in this space is very low, close to below zero, which makes Lin Kaiyun and the other two feel cold unconsciously. Of course, what makes them feel even colder is the thing in front of them. To be precise, There are countless dry bones in this space, densely packed, and there are also many green ghost lights floating, which are condensed from resentment. The most important thing is that these dry bones are human and animal, and there are some bite marks on the bones. This scene like hell makes Lin Kaiyun and the other two feel shocked. Brother Lin, what's going on? Dai Qingfeng opened his mouth wide, his lips trembling with fear, and his words were a little unclear. Luoan is the same. Although he has a strange disease that makes it difficult for him to feel excited, it does not mean that he will feel excited when he is surprised. For example, he is now shocked and can't speak. As for Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, ordinary people like them have never seen hell or the underworld, but the scene in front of them makes them feel that even hell is only this level. Lin Kaiyun also looked solemn at this time. It is not an exaggeration to call this place the 10,000 Bones Pit. At least there are more than 10,000 animal and human bones placed layer by layer. Lin Kaiyun shook his head and replied coldly, I don't know, but the reason for the death of these animals and humans is probably not simple. To be able to appear here, they must have been thrown here by something, and there are some bite marks on these bones. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Luoan finally reacted at this time. He looked at Lin Kaiyun in panic and asked helplessly, Master Lin, what should we do? Do we still go forward? Of course. Do we have any other way? Going back is also a dead end. We can only go forward. Lin Kaiyun shrugged his shoulders, said casually, and walked forward directly. The resentment in this space is extremely heavy, and there may be any accidents. However, Lin Kaiyun did not find an excuse to let Dai Qingfeng or Luoan go to the front. Anyway, even if there is an accident, he will have to deal with it. It is better to let him be at the front. It is also convenient. Seeing Lin Kaiyun leaving, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, who entered, hurried to catch up. Although these dry bones made them feel very scared, it was the safest choice to follow Lin Kaiyun at this time. So Lin Kaiyun and the other two waded through the dry bones of these animals. The resentful ghost fire floating on them made the nerves of the three people very tense, ready to meet the accidents that may occur at any time. However, after passing through this football field-sized space, there really was an unexpected accident that they did not expect. That is, nothing happened. Although the resentment was great, there was not even a lonely ghost. This can be said to be the biggest surprise. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan also breathed a sigh of relief and secretly felt that they were lucky. However, Lin Kaiyun was not happy at this time, because normally, in this place with great yin and resentment, it is impossible that there are no lonely ghosts. Simply put, as long as someone dies in this space, the soul will be bound here and become a wild ghost. But they didn't encounter it until they passed through the entire space. Which only showed one problem, that all these dry bones had no souls. So where did the soul go? Lin Kaiyun had some bad premonitions in his heart. However, no matter what kind of danger is ahead, they have only one way to go forward. If it was outside at this moment, Lin Kaiyun would definitely investigate what happened here, and at the same time, he would do a good ritual to transcend these dry bones, but now is obviously not the right time. After passing through this football field-sized space, Lin Kaiyun and the other two entered an extremely difficult passage. Originally, Lin Kaiyun thought that he would have to repeat the boring route before, walking in the dark passage, but after a few steps, there was no way. To be precise, there is no way ahead, and this hole actually continues upwards. Lin Kaiyun looked up. At this moment, they seemed to be at the bottom of a well. They could see a clear light, which meant that there should be a passage to the outside world. Seeing such a scene, several people had roughly the same idea. They had walked for such a long time in the cave to find the sacred tree. Although the sacred tree was not found now, the passage led to the top and there was light, which meant that it led directly to the outside world. At least they could walk out alive. However, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan made the same choice at the same time, that is, they looked at Lin Kaiyun. They did not speak at this time, nor did they dare to make any comments. They just waited for Lin Kaiyun to say what to do. However, in the current situation, there is almost only one choice. What else can they do? Should they blow it up again? You know, the previous blasting of the stone wall made Lin Kaiyun very anxious. Now Lin Kaiyun does not want to try it again. You two don't have to stare at me like that. This time we have no other choice but to climb up. If we didn't find the sacred tree this time, it means we are unlucky. And what if the sacred tree is right up there? Lin Kaiyun stared at the light above the cave entrance with a smile on his face. It's not uncommon for them to go through twists and turns. It's very likely that they will not only get out of the cave, but also find the sacred tree. This is not impossible. Thinking of this, Lin Kaiyun no longer hesitated. He raised his hands and grabbed the stone next to him, and slowly climbed up. Dai Qingfeng and Luo looked at each other, and did the same thing as Lin Kaiyun, climbing up. The passageway was not smooth, but there were many protruding stones, so it was easy for several people to climb up. But after climbing for a while, Lin Kaiyun felt a little strange, because there were some shriveled pieces of meat and bone residue hanging on the protruding stones. Combining these things with a hole extending upward, Lin Kaiyun suddenly thought of a possibility, that is, the space below with the dead bones piled up is actually a garbage dump, that is, the dead bones were created above and then dumped here. This situation is very pessimistic. God knows, when they climb up, it may be the lair of some monster, and the monster that can create so many bones must be very powerful. However, they can't just wait there to die, there is no other way except to climb up. Chapter 240, A Sudden Turn of Events. No matter what kind of monsters are above, Lin Kaiyun has no choice but to climb up. After all, he doesn't want to stay in the cold and damp place full of resentment. However, Lin Kaiyun didn't tell Dai Qingfeng and Luo, who were climbing behind him, what he was thinking, otherwise it would only make them feel more terrified and scared. Dai Qingfeng and Luo couldn't help much, and if they were afraid, they would really be useless except dragging their feet. As for Dai Qingfeng and Luo, whether they thought of this, Lin Kaiyun couldn't control it. Lin Kaiyun and the other two climbed up little by little, without any communication during the period, as if they were worried about the unknown situation above. Lin Kaiyun didn't need to say much. Dai Qingfeng had a zombie arm, and Luo was a warrior himself, so it was not difficult to climb up. After more than 10 minutes, Lin Kaiyun was the first to climb out of the cave. It was completely different from what Lin Kaiyun had imagined before, that it was a monster's lair and a dangerous situation. There was actually a valley above the cave entrance, but this valley was extremely gloomy. All the trees had withered and died, and the plants that were still alive were all poisonous and about to turn into monsters. This valley was not a good place at first glance, but it was much better than a monster's lair. After Lin Kaiyun, Dai Qingfeng and Luo also climbed up. The two of them could only see withered trees and could not tell that these plants were about to turn into monsters, so there was no other feeling except desolation. Dai Qingfeng walked to Lin Kaiyun's side and said slowly, "Brother Lin, now it seems that the shitty map should be fake. We should be saved. Although we didn't find the sacred tree, I can only think of other ways to treat this zombie arm." Luo didn't have anything to say, but just lay on the ground and breathed in the fresh air outside. After all, in this cave, although there was air, it was very thin, which made him suffocate. After hearing what Dai Qingfeng said, Lin Kaiyun smiled and made a guess. It's hard to say. Have you ever thought that it is possible that the place indicated by the map is actually here? As soon as these words came out, Dai Qingfeng's eyes immediately flashed with light. To be honest, as long as there is hope, he certainly does not want to give up. After all, Dai Qingfeng had found many people before this zombie arm and thought of many ways. If he could get it done, he would have solved it long ago. Now it can be said that the map left by the mysterious person who turned his arm into a zombie arm is his only hope. Even if there is only a 1% chance, Dai Qingfeng is unwilling to give up. However, at this time, Lin Kaiyun heard some awkward music. The sound seemed to be suona and flute, but the level of playing was very poor. If you don't listen carefully, you can't tell what instrument it is. Lin Kaiyun frowned and asked, looking at Dai Qingfeng and Luo, "Did you two hear any sound?" After hearing Lin Kaiyun's question, Dai Qingfeng and Luo also pricked up their ears and listened carefully. After a while, a breeze blew over the sound, which became more obvious. Dai Qingfeng nodded fiercely, with a puzzled expression on his face, and said to Lin Kaiyun, "Brother Lin, it seems that there is really a sound, but why is this sound so strange? It sounds like joy and funeral music." "It seems that it is right. The sound came from over there, let's go and see." Lin Kaiyun nodded, looked into the depths of the valley following the sound, and then raised his legs and walked directly towards the sound. This time, Dai Qingfeng did not make any eye contact with Luo, and directly raised his legs to follow Lin Kaiyun. Luo, who was breathing fresh air, turned his head and found that Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfeng had left. Scratching his head in confusion, Luo had no choice but to get up and follow. In the dead end of the cave, Luoan did not retreat. Now outside, Luoan is even less afraid. Lin Kaiyun led the way in front, with his hands behind his back very naturally, but in the eyes of Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, there was quite a bit of indomitable momentum. Following the sound for a while, Lin Kaiyun found that there were some red and green ribbons hanging in the valley, but these ribbons were very shabby, with either big holes or small holes, and looked like they were picked up from everywhere. At the same time, there were some lanterns that were no longer lit, red and white, with different words written on them, even Li Mansion, Su Mansion, Funeral, Joy, etc. This scene further strengthened Lin Kaiyun's idea that these ribbons and lanterns were obviously picked up from everywhere. Originally, when he heard the music before, Lin Kaiyun thought that it might be someone practicing musical instruments in the mountains. But now Lin Kaiyun immediately threw away this idea. No one would hang ribbons and lanterns like this, so it could only be the monster that created those dry bones. However, even so, Lin Kaiyun still wanted to find out the truth, and he still walked in the direction of the ribbons and lanterns. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan also discovered this scene, whispering in the back, not knowing what they were discussing, but Lin Kaiyun didn't care. In fact, even if Dai Qingfeng and Luoan choose to leave now, Lin Kaiyun will not stop them. Anyway, the two of them can't help much. Besides, for Lin Kaiyun, the journey to find the sacred tree has ended. His guess just now was just a casual remark, and Lin Kaiyun himself did not take it seriously. However, I don't know how Dai Qingfeng and Luoan talked. The two of them knew that the people hanging ribbons and lanterns might not be human, and they resolutely chose to follow Lin Kaiyun. In this way, the three of them walked more than 10 miles along the valley where things were hung. It's strange, there are ribbons and lanterns hanging all over these 10 miles? What is this monster going to do? It's so grand. Lin Kaiyun tilted his head and looked at the ribbons and lanterns on both sides that had not been interrupted, and he muttered to himself in confusion. Wait, Lin Kaiyun, who was muttering, suddenly thought of something, and then connected with a picture in front of him. Lin Kaiyun suddenly realized something. Before, Churin Medi told me about a powerful monster called Wangliu Laoxin, who seemed to be holding a birthday celebration. If this scene is a birthday celebration, there is no contradiction. Lin Kaiyun clapped his hands. He suddenly felt that he might have found the place where Wangliu Laoxin held his birthday celebration by accident. You should know that the purpose of Lin Kaiyun's coming out this time was to find this Wangliu Laoxin and see if he was the weasel who murdered him. As a result, he met Dai Qingfeng in the process of searching, and happened to be attracted by the ancient Manchu characters on the map, so he temporarily changed his route to look for the sacred tree. As a result, the sacred tree was not found, but he unexpectedly found the cave of Wangliu Laoxin in a confused manner. It was really a twist. Chapter 241 Encountering Monsters on the Road. Thinking that this valley was most likely the place where the Wangliu Laoxin held his birthday, Lin Kaiyun stopped and turned to look at Dai Qingfeng and Luoan. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan kept shaking their heads and looking around, feeling uneasy, and didn't notice that Lin Kaiyun stopped and almost bumped into him. Brother Lin, what's wrong with you? Did you find anything? Dai Qingfeng looked at Lin Kaiyun in confusion and asked. Lin Kaiyun didn't care about Dai Qingfeng and Luoan at all, and almost bumped into him. He just briefly talked about the situation in this valley. There are indeed some discoveries. I can only tell you that this is the territory of a very powerful monster. These weird ribbons and lanterns should be hung to celebrate a birthday, so you naturally don't need to follow me. And it's hard to say whether there will be a sacred tree here. I'm just guessing. Lin Kaiyun mentioned the sacred tree again. Of course, he said this not to lure Dai Qingfeng to accompany him in this way. In fact, Lin Kaiyun even felt that he should be more relaxed without Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, but this was an objective fact after all, so Lin Kaiyun, based on the friendship they had developed along the way, told Dai Qingfeng the truth. After hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, Dai Qingfeng bowed to Lin Kaiyun with gratitude, then said with a smile, Brother Lin, to be honest, we two have actually been discussing this along the way. No matter how stupid we are, we have discovered that something is wrong with this valley. But I am still willing to give it a try. I will not regret it even if I really die. Moreover, I remember your kindness along the way. Today I will give my life to you. Luoan on this side also echoed, that's right, Master Lin. Along the way we killed big tigers, that ugly fish monster also survived, and even saw the divine beast in the sky. It was really worthwhile for me, Luoan, to come here. I can even say that this trip is the happiest mission of my life. Of course, if I can play some role instead of just doing chores, then I might be even happier, although Luoan really experienced a life and death experience along the way. Of course, this was just his wishful thinking, because with the presence of Lin Kaiyun, in fact, everything was safe. However, it was also because of this that Luoan experienced the excitement and blood rush that he had never experienced in his peaceful life. Although he could only help and was always taught and frightened by Lin Kaiyun, Luoan still felt it was worth it. Lin Kaiyun heard the two guys' loyalty and smiled helplessly. He had no intention of taking Dai Qingfang and Luoan as his followers. And now, Lin Kaiyun couldn't say what the situation was like on the birthday of Wang Lin Laoxin. After all, some things are better with fewer people than more people. And even if he needs manpower, he can naturally summon those great immortals, whose ability and efficiency are 100 times stronger than Dai Qingfang and Luoan. However, since Dai Qingfang and Luoan wanted to follow Lin Kaiyun, he didn't want to object. Because although he came here by accident, it was logically necessary to first figure out that he came here following the map in Dai Qingfang's hand, and it was also very likely not by accident. Since the sacred tree and Wang Lin Laoxin are two strange things that are actually intertwined. Lin Kaiyun has enough reason to think that the sacred tree is related to Wang Liu Laoxin, or is Wang Lin Laoxin's lair under the sacred tree? If this is really the case, then Dai Qingfang's existence is very necessary, because his zombie arm may be the key to leading out the secret of the sacred tree and the mysterious man. Although Lin Kaiyun has such considerations, he still feels it is necessary to remind Dai Qingfang and Luoan. Lin Kaiyun's expression is very serious. Looking at Dai Qingfang and Luoan, he said, "It doesn't matter if you two want to go with me, but I have to say this in advance. If you two act rashly and disrupt my plan, don't blame me for killing you." Lin Kaiyun's tone gives people an irrefutable momentum, and this cold feeling makes Dai Qingfang and Luoan believe that Lin Kaiyun will definitely do what he says. "Don't worry, brother Lin, we will definitely not hold you back." After saying that, Dai Qingfang and Luoan smiled and looked at each other. They followed Lin Kaiyun all the way, and they dare not say that they can accurately understand Lin Kaiyun's character, but they also know that Lin Kaiyun is a person with a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. Although everything was said clearly beforehand, when faced with a crisis, Lin Kaiyun did not hesitate to help. Seeing this, Lin Kaiyun did not say a word, shrugged his shoulders, turned and walked towards the depths of the valley. At this time, a thin layer of fog had floated around the few people, and the fog became thicker and thicker as they went deeper inside. With this deep fog, Lin Kaiyun's vision became shorter and shorter, as if he was still walking in the valley, and as if he turned into a rugged path. This change in environment was quite acceptable to Lin Kaiyun and the other two, and they didn't have any special thoughts, but as they walked, they could feel that there were many people coming and going around them. Because of the thick fog, even Lin Kaiyun couldn't see clearly, but some of the close Lin Kaiyun and the other three still took a closer look. What kind of people are these? They are all strange monsters. Lin Kaiyun was not surprised and even nodded and greeted them naturally. Dai Qingfang and Luoan were naturally shocked, but after Lin Kaiyun's reminder, they did not show any abnormality at this time. Going forward, there are more and more monsters, including mice with long hair, ghosts without heads, blood-sucking zombies from time to time, old ladies with human bodies and cat heads, and even completely human-like monsters. Of course, after seeing so many strange monsters, Lin Kaiyun and the other two did not think that these human-like monsters were the same as them. In fact, it is not uncommon for these monsters to transform into human forms. Whether it is the previous legends or the reality, it is very normal. But there is one interesting thing. These monsters usually do not use the depth of strength as the standard for transformation into human forms. Whether it is a kind monster or an evil monster, it is completely different from those great immortals. The great immortals completely rely on their Taoism, and then gradually cultivate into human form, and finally seek titles, go out to complete tasks, and dream of being among the immortals. But the monsters are completely the opposite. Chapter 242 is also a fierce man. The way monsters transform is completely different from the way immortals want to cultivate to become immortals. Although monsters have a way to transform, it is not based on strength. There are many monsters in this world that can transform, all because of their bloodline. In fact, among monsters, transforming into human form is not a proud thing, so you will often see that the more powerful the monster is, the less rare it is to transform into human form, and they also despise those of the same kind who transform into human form. For monsters, those who can transform into human form have very poor bloodlines. On the contrary, the purer and older the bloodline of the monster, the more difficult it is to transform into human form, so there is indeed a contempt chain among monsters. And those immortals of the immortal family were actually considered a kind of monster in the oldest time. Even the immortal family, foxes, mice, hedgehogs, snakes, weasels, etc., can be said to be the most common and weakest bloodline among monsters. If you want to rely on cultivation to have any great fortune, it is basically impossible, so you can only find a secluded place and embark on the road of asking for a title. Because asking for a title and going out to be a horse is bound to humans, the immortal family attaches great importance to transforming into a human. There are strange monsters in this deep valley, and there are also some monsters that have transformed into humans, so Lin Kaiyun and others are not so abrupt. These monsters are all in the same direction, presumably to attend the birthday of Wang Liu Laoxin. Lin Kaiyun just calmly followed these large groups to the depths. Dai Qingfang and Luoan, who were behind Lin Kaiyun, did not expect to see so many monsters. It was beyond their imagination, but they did not reveal any flaws. After walking for more than 10 minutes, the valleys on both sides gradually narrowed. Lin Kaiyun followed the large group of monsters and turned to the entrance of another mountain pass. Outside this entrance, there are two cat-like monsters with whiskers on their bodies and mouths, welcoming all the monster guests. Whenever a monster enters from the entrance, these two cat-like monsters will meow charmingly, which may be a welcome. It must be said that this Wang Liu Laoxin, from the ribbons and lanterns hanging in the valley before, including the two cat monsters welcoming ladies, are all learning human thinking. Although it is a bit out of place, the direction is generally correct. However, the graceful and enchanting cat monster is not the imagined cat-girl beauty, but a completely upright wild cat, without any human form at all. Only the neck and arms have become human forms, but they still have long hair, and the hair on the body is not smooth, which looks very awkward. Lin Kaiyun didn't want to look at these two wildcat monsters, but it was still important to observe them. He endured the discomfort in his heart and stared at them for a while. After watching for a while, Lin Kaiyun found that every time a monster passed by, the two wildcats' welcoming meows were not to welcome, but to check the breath of the monsters who came to congratulate their birthdays. After Lin Kaiyun found this, he was glad that he endured a discomfort in his eyes to observe these two awkward cat monsters, otherwise when they passed by, they were found to have no smell of monsters, and everything would be over. Lin Kaiyun silently recited the curse in his heart, covering himself with the smell of Wang Ziafen, and at the same time took out a small bottle from the storage medicine bag and handed it to Luoan. Because there were monsters all around, Lin Kaiyun did not speak, but just secretly gave a wink. Luoan was also smart, and roughly understood what Lin Kaiyun meant. He took the bottle very quickly, and then took advantage of the fact that no monsters noticed, opened the cork on the bottle and drank it quickly. The sticky liquid in the bottle was very unpleasant, and Luoan drank it very painfully. However, in this situation, Luoan could endure any bitterness. After forcing himself to drink it, Luoan's face tightened into a ball, but he still nodded to Lin Kaiyun, meaning to tell Lin Kaiyun not to worry. He has already taken care of it. However, when Lin Kaiyun saw Luoan, he actually drank the contents of the bottle, and a surprised expression appeared on his face. Because Lin Kaiyun found that the two cat monsters were checking all the smells on their bodies when welcoming the guests. With Wang Ziafeng's blessing, he would carry the smell of the weasel, so he could pass the test naturally. Dai Qingfang himself had a zombie arm, and he had the smell of this zombie, so it was not a big problem for him to pass the test. So Luoan was alone, and there was no way. Therefore, Lin Kaiyun could only think of a simple and direct way, which was to give Luoan the weasel's urine and let him pour it on his body. This weasel's urine was given to him by Granny Tiho last time to save Wang Kai. I don't know how long it has been with Granny Tiho, but if you count the time it has been on Lin Kaiyun, it has been a long time, which can be regarded as old urine. The smell must be very strong, so Luoan only needs to pour it on his body to cover it for more than 2 hours. As a result, Lin Kaiyun never expected that Luoan actually drank the weasel's urine. Lin Kaiyun had never expected this situation, and he also gave Luoan a thumbs up in his heart. Although Luoan didn't help much along the way because of his strength, judging from this action, he was definitely a tough guy. Soon they arrived, and Lin Kaiyun and the other two passed through. Lin Kaiyun took the lead and walked to the middle of the two welcoming cat monsters. Originally, the cat monster only needed to smell it and then meow, but when it came to Lin Kaiyun, something changed. The cat monster smelled Lin Kaiyun carefully and had a strong smell of weasel. There was nothing wrong with this, but Lin Kaiyun could actually transform, so realistically, which made the two cat monsters very interested. Judging from the necks and arms of the two cat monsters, they really wanted to transform into human form, but they did not succeed for various reasons, so they were very interested in Lin Kaiyun's perfect transformation, and wanted to communicate with Lin Kaiyun and ask for the method of transformation. At this time, Dai Qingfeng, who was following closely behind Lin Kaiyun, saw the two cat-like monsters acting strangely and guessed that there might be some small accident. So Dai Qingfeng thought about it and directly rolled up his zombie arm, then roared angrily, looking very impatient. After hearing Dai Qingfeng's roar and feeling the strong breath of the zombie arm, the two monsters also realized that they now had a mission. If they really delayed things, Wang Liu Laoxin would definitely not forgive them. Then the two cat-like monsters did not dare to delay any longer and directly let Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfeng in. Chapter 243 passed successfully. Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfeng both passed smoothly, and then Luoan was the only one left. The two cat-like monsters that arrived at Luoan sniffed carefully and soon meowed in confusion. They did smell some weasel scent on Luoan, but the smell was very light, which made them a little suspicious. At this time, Lin Kaiyun pointed to his mouth on the inside of the valley, and then opened his hand naturally, pretending to yawn. He and Dai Qingfeng were sure that they could pass, but Luoan was the only one, and Lin Kaiyun was not sure if he could get away with it, so after passing, Lin Kaiyun did not go far, but waited on the inside of the valley. When he saw that Luoan was not having a good time passing, he thought of a way to remind him. Luoan was a little nervous when he was sniffed by the two cat-like monsters, because he knew in his heart that he was not a monster at all, but a real person, so he was also a little scared and worried. When Luoan was at a loss, he naturally looked at Lin Kaiyun. At the same time, he happened to see Lin Kaiyun pointing at his mouth and yawning. Suddenly, he remembered the small bottle he had drunk before. Luoan understood in an instant. He thought that the small bottle before was prepared by Lin Kaiyun for him. I didn't expect that this great master Lin would think so far and prepare it for me early, Luoan couldn't help thinking in his heart, and the whole person became steady. With a bottom line in his heart, he was not panicking about anything. Luoan even took the initiative to stare at the two cat monsters who were smelling him, and at the same time opened his mouth and breathed hard. When Luoan opened his mouth, not to mention the cat monsters who were checking him, even Lin Kaiyun who was testing in the valley felt a strong smell of urine. Of course, the effect is needless to say. The two cat monsters who were checking quickly pinched their noses and let Luoan pass. After sending away Luoan, the unpleasant creature, the two cat-like monsters in charge of the inspection could not stand the smell anymore, and started discussing with an uncomfortable look on their faces. What's going on? Is this person a weasel monster in human form? Why does he smell like urine? Don't say it, there must be a problem when he transformed, and his butt became a head. Of course, Luoan didn't know what they were discussing, and walked to Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfeng with excitement. The inner side of the valley was not like the outer side, where monsters lined up and stuck together. On the contrary, there were only a few monsters passing through, so there was an open space where Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfeng were waiting. Because of this, Luoan, who came over, also felt relieved to communicate with the two people. As soon as he arrived in front of Lin Kaiyun, Luoan secretly gave Lin Kaiyun a thumbs up and said admiringly, "Master Lin, what was in the small bottle you gave me before? Although the smell is really unbearable, the effect is really good. Don't you know that when I opened my mouth just now, the two monsters who were checking were instantly scared and quickly let me pass?" After hearing Luoan's silly words, Lin Kaiyun forced a smile, looked at Luoan with some sympathy, and slowly said, "Luoan, I really can't bear to hide it from you. In fact, the two cat-like monsters are not scared. They may just think it smells bad." Smells bad? Luoan was stunned when he heard the word. Then put his hand to his mouth and blew a breath, then put it to his nose and smelled it. He didn't detect any smell at all, and then asked puzzledly, "It was indeed quite smelly when I drank it, but is there still a smell now? Why can't I feel it?" When Luoan did this, Lin Kaiyun and Dai Qingfeng both pinched their noses subconsciously. As for whether the smell was strong or not, Luoan didn't even need to ask deliberately, the result was self-evident. Luoan saw that Lin Kaiyun and King Feng both pinched their noses, and he knew the situation in his heart, but he still asked curiously, "Master Lin, is it really so smelly? What did you let me drink before?" Lin Kaiyun raised his hand and patted Luoan's shoulder, looked at him sympathetically, and said comfortingly, "Luoan, you have to hold it in after I tell you. In fact, the small bottle I gave you contains the old urine of a weasel." "What old urine of a weasel?" Luoan's eyes widened immediately when he heard that the bottle contains urine or old urine. He wanted to shout out, but he didn't forget that he was now in the middle of the monsters, so he could only suppress his voice. However, this contrast of surprise and whispering made Lin Kaiyun and King Feng on the side couldn't help laughing. Some things are hard to say. Before Luoan didn't know, he didn't feel anything wrong with his body, and he couldn't even smell the smell. But once he knew that he drank weasel urine, he immediately felt his stomach churning and wanted to vomit at any time. Luoan rubbed his throat again to make himself feel better, then looked at Lin Kaiyun with a sad face. Of course, he didn't dare to get angry with Lin Kaiyun, so he could only ask aggrievedly, "Master Lin, is there nothing else? Although I understand that you did it for my smooth entry, this is really too hard to accept." Lin Kaiyun smiled and said, "Luoan, if you say this, I actually want to ask you. I gave you the urine in the Emperor's hand just for you to pee on yourself, so that you can get away with it with the smell, but I never thought that you would drink it directly. When did I tell you to drink it?" Luoan, who had been waiting for Lin Kaiyun's answer with a sad face, looked even uglier when he heard this. He patted his forehead with some regret, and cursed himself. "Luoan, you thought you were smart for once, but you chose to drink the weasel's urine. You deserve it." Seeing Luoan like this, Lin Kaiyun found it very funny, but he still held back and thought it was better not to provoke Luoan. At least the result was the same, and the three of them all came in smoothly. At this time, more monsters passed through the inner side of the valley. Under the guidance of other little monsters, Lin Kaiyun followed these monsters into a cave. The inside of this cave was also like the valley outside, full of tattered ribbons and some lanterns. Although these monsters knew some human thinking, and thought that the birthday of Wang Liu Laoxin was a day worth celebrating, these monsters had no idea that these tattered ribbons were really too cheap. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Why Don't You Eat? Arriving in the cave, Lin Kaiyun just glanced at the tattered ribbons and macy lanterns, and ignored them. Lin Kaiyun and the other two found a stone to sit on and began to observe the situation in the cave. After looking around, they felt a little disappointed. There was no so-called sacred tree in the cave. However, it does not mean that the sacred tree must not be here with Wang Liu Laoxin, because this cave is like an ant's nest, generally connected in all directions. Moreover, if Wang Liu Laoxin really mastered the sacred tree, he must have hidden it like a treasure, and he would definitely not be at the place where the sacred tree was when he held his birthday. At this time, a bamboo sedan was slowly carried in by 8 fox monsters. After arriving at the cave, the 8 fox monsters shouted in unison, "Wang Liu Laoxian, here we are." Upon hearing this, Lin Kaiyun stood up all of a sudden. He was indeed a little hasty and his movements were a little big, but the other monsters were also looking at Wang Liu Laoxian, so Lin Kaiyun's action did not seem too abrupt. On the way here, Lin Kaiyun had been reminding King Feng and Luoan not to act rashly. As a result, he was a little impatient at the critical moment, but it was understandable. After all, Lin Kaiyun couldn't wait to see if this so-called Wang Liu Laoxian was the weasel who persecuted him in the past. If it was really the same person, that would be great. In this way, he could not only solve a hidden danger hidden in the dark, but also fulfill his promise to the female ghost. However, after seeing the figure on the bamboo sedan, Lin Kaiyun's face turned cold. He was obviously very disappointed, because the person sitting on the sedan was not the yellow-skinned man who had secretly harmed him. Sitting on the bamboo sedan with 8 small demon platforms, like a human, was a man wearing a robe made of yellow cloth that he had picked up from somewhere. His face was sharp and his cheeks were unusually dry, but his ears were furry and he was fiddling around, obviously paying attention to all the monsters who came to participate in the birthday. From the ears and the tail hidden under the yellow robe, Lin Kaiyun could clearly judge that this Wanglian Laoxin was not the yellow-skinned man at the beginning. He was not even a weasel at all, but like the 8 little demons carrying the sedan, he was an old fox that had cultivated into a spirit. Moreover, this old fox actually had a pair of charming eyes. Most of the other features seemed to be male, and it was really difficult to tell whether he was male or female. After seeing the true face of Wanglian Laoxin, Lin Kaiyun could not hide his disappointment and sat down with an unhappy face. After arriving at this valley, Lin Kaiyun had a preconceived notion that this Wanglian Laoxin was basically the weasel from the past. Originally, he wanted to resolve the grudge against the weasel and find the sacred tree at the same time. But now it is confirmed that this Wanglian Laoxin is not the weasel from the past, so it can be said that he has been tossing and turning. If he can't find the sacred tree again, then it would be completely in vain. At the same time, he took the initiative to come to the cave where monsters gather and wade into this muddy water. Lin Kaiyun even thought of the result of losing both his wife and his army. It would be strange if he could be happy. At this time, Wang Liu, who was sitting on the sedan chair, propped up his dry body and said to all the monsters, "Thank you all for coming to my birthday. It's not easy for us monsters to survive. I also want to take this opportunity to have a good gathering with all of you. Today is a festive day. I have also prepared some food and drinks. I hope everyone can eat well." I don't know where Wang Liu learned it from, but he can even give an opening speech. Of course, Lin Kaiyun can understand this, but Dai Qingfang and Luoan on the side can't understand it at all. They can only hear some sharp and dry voices, like stones scratching glass, which is extremely unpleasant, but Dai Qingfang and Luoan did not dare to cover their ears, for fear of attracting the attention of other monsters. After Wang Liu finished speaking, little monsters came in with food, and some monsters, wearing clothes that looked similar to ribbons, twisted and twisted, obviously dancers to cheer up all the monsters. Of course, when Lin Kaiyun and the other two looked at them from a human perspective, they would only feel disgusted. The clothes on these dancers were dirty, and they looked even worse than the clothes. They were all foxes with yellow hair, pointed mouths and monkey cheeks, and their big tails swayed behind them. Fox spirits are naturally charming, but that only refers to fox spirits that have transformed into human form. These fox dancers don't look like humans at all, and they are imitating humans to flirt and pose. It is really hard for Lin Kaiyun to accept them. And those monsters carrying food also brought the food to Lin Kaiyun and others. The food at the gathering of monsters must be very special. What was placed in front of the 3 people was not a meal at all, but a piece of broken limbs of an unknown species, as well as various kinds of fruits, including drinks of unknown liquid. Lin Kaiyun had experienced the ghost domain of female ghosts before, so he naturally saw the food of ghosts and monsters, so he was naturally calm. Dai Qingfang and Luoan were not as relaxed as Lin Kaiyun. Although their facial expressions did not change, tiny beads of sweat appeared on their cheeks. If they could accept the unknown liquid and the strange-shaped fruits, the broken limbs of the species they could not see clearly made them feel cold. When they thought of the place where the dead bones were placed before, they felt terrified and broke out in cold sweat unconsciously. After seeing Dai Qingfang and Luoan were a little abnormal, Lin Kaiyun leaned over and reminded them in a low voice, "Don't think about it, wipe the sweat off your face. We are in this cave full of monsters, we must be extremely cautious." Dai Qingfang and Luoan reacted quickly after hearing Lin Kaiyun's voice, wiped the cold sweat on their faces, and nodded with the gritted teeth. However, no matter how calm Lin Kaiyun and the other two were and how they disguised themselves, there was still one thing that made the monsters around them find something wrong. Because after the other monsters got the food, they were so excited that they ate it without restraint. Some of them were not so smart and even quarreled over the meat. Compared with this situation, Lin Kaiyun and the other two did not move at all, and had no intention of eating at all. This state immediately aroused the curiosity of the monsters nearby. The wolf monster sitting on the stone next to Lin Kaiyun wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, staring at Lin Kaiyun and the other two with his green eyes, and shouted unkindly, "Hey, you little monsters with low bloodlines, why don't you eat? Are you disgusted with the food prepared by Wanglian Laoxin?" Chapter 245. Do you think I have a good temper? Facing the wolf monster's questioning, although Dai Qingfang and Luoan didn't understand, they could still feel that the newcomer had bad intentions. Their faces turned green, and they didn't know what to do. They all looked at Lin Kaiyun. Lin Kaiyun didn't have a good solution, but at this point, the more you think of excuses to avoid, the easier it is to lose. Then he turned sideways and looked directly at the wild wolf monster without a trace of fear. Lin Kaiyun pointed to the broken branch on the stone table and said in the monster's language, "This is not fresh, I won't eat it." Most monsters have various quirks, and they are basically unruly. After all, even if they have practiced Taoism, it is difficult to eliminate the wildness in their bodies. Therefore, Lin Kaiyun's seemingly unfounded excuse just fits the logic of the monster's heart. Although the wild wolf monster has a sensitive sense of smell by nature, it used its hunting instinct to sense that something was wrong with Lin Kaiyun and his companions. But after hearing this explanation, its green eyes turned and it dispelled its doubts. It grinned and said to Lin Kaiyun, "Life is getting worse and worse now. Those closed sects seem to have vague signs of going down the mountain. I guess you have to get used to eating these stale ingredients in the future." After that, the wild wolf monster started eating again, and it was called wolfing down. Dai Qingfang and Luo and were relieved to see that Lin Kaiyun had dealt with this wild wolf monster with no good intentions. But before they could be happy for long, the wild wolf had a short, sharp-nosed and monkey-faced monster sitting at the same table. Lin Kaiyun was naturally very familiar with this monster, which was a yellow-skinned man. Originally, the weasel monster didn't pay much attention to Lin Kaiyun and the others, but just drank the unknown juice. However, after the wild wolf monster asked, the weasel monster looked at Lin Kaiyun in a sneaky way. Lin Kaiyun used the same method as before to look at it, and at the same time, there was a fierce expression in his eyes, as if warning. But this method may only be useful for the wild wolf monster. It didn't work at all against the weasel monster, but aroused the suspicion of the weasel monster. The weasel monster jumped down from the stone and walked straight to Lin Kaiyun and the others. It opened its pointed mouth, sniffed the smell on Lin Kaiyun, and asked in confusion, "You smell like weasels too. Which mountain are you from? Why haven't I seen you before?" Lin Kaiyun silently recited a spell to go out on horseback, which made Wang Xianfang directly attached to his body. After going out on horseback, Lin Kaiyun naturally had some characteristics of a weasel, such as Lin Kaiyun's pupils turned green like a weasel, his nails became pointed, and there were some weasel whiskers around his mouth. Lin Kaiyun, with this weasel-like appearance, glared at the weasel monster fiercely. "Which mountain am I from? What qualifications do you have to ask? I was invited to attend the birthday of Wang Liu Laoxin today. Who do you think you are to come and order me around?" Lin Kaiyun's fierce appearance really scared the weasel monster. The weasel monster naturally discovered the changes in Lin Kaiyun, and at the same time, it was accompanied by some of its own kind. After seeing this scene, the weasel monster naturally no longer had any doubts about Lin Kaiyun. And Lin Kaiyun's hide and body after the transformation were much larger than it, so the weasel monster did not dare to have any doubts about Lin Kaiyun. However, this weasel monster was born to be a troublemaker. After not daring to provoke Lin Kaiyun, it immediately turned its head and looked at Luo, and asked aggressively, "Why do you smell like urine?" Luo saw that the weasel monster seemed to be saying something to him, but there was no way. He really couldn't understand the monster's language, and at the same time, he didn't know how to behave so that he wouldn't be exposed. The weasel monster blinked its cunning eyes and saw that Luo was slow to respond and didn't dare to look at him, as if he didn't hear what he said at all. No, to be precise, it should be that it didn't understand what he said. After thinking about this, the weasel monster couldn't help but grin and asked, "Well, why don't you answer? Don't you understand? Why do you smell like urine?" Although the weasel didn't transform into human form, Luo could see clearly the grinning look, and this look clearly showed that Luo had seen through Luo's intentions, which made Dai Qingfang and Luo's hearts beat wildly and their nerves tense. When Lin Kaiyun saw the weasel monster showing this smile, he knew that something bad was going to happen. He originally thought that he could stop harassing the weasel monster by using some means to drive it away, but he didn't expect that the weasel monster was so unruly that it turned around and began to question Luo, who was sitting at the same table with Lin Kaiyun. Since Luo had already revealed some flaws, Lin Kaiyun sighed. Now there was no other way, and he could only go all the way. Lin Kaiyun stood up directly. His body was much taller than the weasel monster. Even his shadow alone had covered the weasel monster. The weasel monster noticed Lin Kaiyun's abnormality and turned his head to ask questions. Lin Kaiyun suddenly stretched out his arm, and his long nails pierced into the weasel monster's neck, directly pulling the weasel monster up. Then, he used inertia to slam the weasel monster of many lives to the ground, and his head was smashed instantly. The weasel monster didn't even make any sound. In just a moment, it was smashed to death by Lin Kaiyun. Lin Kaiyun wiped his hands, spat and cursed. First you come to question me, and then you come to question my partner? Do you really think I have a good temper? Of course, Lin Kaiyun said this in the language of the monster. He said it to other monsters, which can be regarded as killing the chicken to scare the monkey. In fact, it was just as Lin Kaiyun thought. Fighting and killing among monsters was commonplace. Even the wild wolf monster next to him gave Lin Kaiyun an admiring look. The monsters around him did not react at all to Lin Kaiyun's direct attack and killing of the weasel monster. However, after all, this was the birthday of Wang Liu Laoxin, and this gathering of monsters was also organized by Wang Liu Laoxin. So Lin Kaiyun's direct attack here was just a disrespect to Wang Liu Laoxin. The fox monster who had carried the sedan chair for Wang Liu Laoxin glared at Lin Kaiyun and shouted, "What are your intentions? How dare you attack on Wang Liu Laoxin's birthday? Who gave you the courage?" Chapter 246 Don't say anything, I exploded. Before Lin Kaiyun took action, he had already made this plan, and he also knew that Wang Liu Laoxin would definitely be dissatisfied, including the mode of deliberately using monsters to attack when he took action before. This was all within Lin Kaiyun's imagination. Therefore, in response to Wang Liu Laoxin's attack, Lin Kaiyun had already thought of a countermeasure. Lin Kaiyun stood up slowly and said directly to Wang Liu Laoxin, who was sitting in a high position, "Old immortal, I am very much looking forward to your birthday, and I have come here from afar to participate. However, this fellow weasel of mine has bad intentions. During the entire birthday, he kept looking for his fellows to plot bad things. I am embarrassed to tell you." Wang Liu Laoxin seemed listless, looking at Lin Kaiyun in a general way, and a sharp voice came out of his mouth, "Tell me, whether it's nice or not, I won't blame you." Lin Kaiyun explained to Wang Liu Laoxin according to the excuse he had thought of before. "Old immortal, you should know that my true form is a weasel, and the one I killed with bad intentions is also a weasel. We are of the same kind, and I have no reason to kill it, but what this weasel did really made me unbearable. Since coming to this cave, this weasel has been wandering around, looking for its own kind, trying to unite with its own kind to make trouble at this banquet, and then make you, the old immortal, lose face. It also said that only we weasels are worthy of the title of Wang Liu Laoxin, and foxes are not qualified to be called Wang at all, trying to make you, the old immortal, change to Hu Liu Laoxin. In fact, the weasel monster killed by Lin Kaiyun was really looking for its own kind to communicate everywhere. Did it have any conspiracy? Lin Kaiyun didn't know. Anyway, there was no evidence after death. He said that there was, and it was true, because the biggest name of foxes and weasels is the 5 major families of the immortal family. After all, it is good to lean on a big tree to enjoy the shade, so some fox and weasel monsters sometimes claim to be descendants of the 5 major families of the immortal family. Among the 5 major families of the immortals, the weasel Wang family and the fox Hu family have similar characteristics and temperaments, so they have always been in direct confrontation with each other. This has also led to some weasel and fox monsters always using this as an excuse when they have disputes. Therefore, the reason made up by Lin Kaiyun is closer to the facts. Good kill. Immortal Wang Liu opened his drooping eyelids, stood up from his tiger skin chair, looked around at all the medicines in the cave, and said, "The reason why my Taoism is so profound is entirely due to yellow peach tree I encountered. So I was grateful and named myself Wang. No one dares to say anything about this. At the same time, I also saw that among you who came here today, there are many foxes and weasels. I also want to say a few words to you. We are monsters, not those immortals who have come out to perform rituals. We have nothing to do with them, and don't rely on their reputation with a smug face. This will only do more harm than good. I believe you all know that if you really encounter the Wang family and the Hu family among the 5 major immortal families, they will not be related to you. The first thing they will do is to destroy you." Immortal Wang Liu's advice, which sounded like an elder, did make the weasel monsters and fox monsters on the scene agree very much. The old immortal is right, we are monsters, and have nothing to do with those great immortals. Yes, the old immortal is a role model. The old immortal has proved that even if we foxes and weasels do not have such strong bloodlines, we can still have profound cultivation. For a moment, the weasels and foxes below all expressed their opinions, as if they were impressed by the old immortal's strength and character. However, Lin Kaiyun would not listen too carefully to these commercial boasts, and basically just listened in one ear and let it out in the other. However, there was one sentence that Lin Kaiyun still remembered in his heart. That is, according to reason, the bloodlines and talents of weasels and foxes are basically not high among monsters, so their strength is generally limited. As a fox, Wang Liu Laoxin was able to cultivate such a profound cultivation. It turned out that he had the help of a genius treasure. Wang Liu Laoxin said before that it was because of the help of a yellow peach tree. Speaking of which, that yellow peach tree is not the so-called sacred tree, right? Lin Kaiyun started to speculate again. After all, Dai Qingfeng and the map only mentioned the sacred tree, and did not say what kind of sacred tree it was, so even if it was a peach tree, it was completely normal. Lin Kaiyun thought that the matter was over, and sat back on the stone. At the same time, his mind had already wandered away, thinking about the sacred tree and the yellow peach tree. However, at this time, Wang Liu Laoxin did not sit down, but looked at Lin Kaiyun and others. The face of a kind old man before changed at this time, becoming a little cunning and ferocious. Wang Liu Laoxin looked at Lin Kaiyun and asked slowly, "Brother Xiao of this weasel, I want to know why you, as the great immortal of the Wang family, come to attend my birthday." Great immortal of the Wang family? Who? Lin Kaiyun was stunned for a moment after hearing what Wang Liu Laoxin said, and then reacted and asked very naturally, "Old immortal, did you misunderstand? I am not a great immortal of the Wang family." Wang Liu Laoxin did not get angry after Lin Kaiyun denied it, but spoke as if recalling, "I have met the great immortal of the Wang family before. To be precise, he was the sixth master of the Wang family, one of the 5 major families of the immortal family. We have the same ideals and are very good friends. Speaking of which, our names are a bit similar. My name is Wang Liu Laoxin, and my good friend is called Wang Liu Taiyi. It seems that we haven't seen each other for more than 2 years. By the way, he also taught me how to identify the great immortals, so your breath can't be hidden from me." After hearing what Wang Liu Laoxin said, Lin Kaiyun couldn't help but smile bitterly. He didn't expect that Wang Liu Laoxin actually knew the weasel who had harmed him. What a fate. That's good too. This way, it wasn't a wasted trip. "Laoxin, I'm not the great immortal of the Wang family, but..." Lin Kaiyun smiled at Wang Liu Laoxin, then spread his hands and said directly in human language, "If that's the case, then I don't have to act anymore. It's tiring." Dai Qingfeng and Luon, who were standing by, didn't understand the language of medicine at all, and couldn't speak it either. They could only guess. As a result, they suddenly heard Lin Kaiyun speaking in human language, which made them think that there was something wrong with their ears. Dai Qingfeng didn't care about anything else at this time. He stood up and approached Lin Kaiyun, and reminded him in a low voice, "Brother Lin, did you say it casually? Why are you still speaking in our human language? Isn't this exposed? This old fox has long discovered that something is wrong with me. Although I have made a mistake now, I am not a great immortal of the Wang family, but I have attracted his attention and will be discovered sooner or later. Since it will be exposed sooner or later, why bother to act?" Lin Kaiyun said indifferently. Of course, he didn't say it casually, he did it on purpose. Although the 6th elder Wang misunderstood, he has already set his sights on me. It is only a matter of time before I am exposed. It is better to admit it openly now, and try to figure out the mentality of the 6th elder Wang. Sure enough, Wang Liu Laoxin, who had been calm and expressionless, changed his expression instantly after hearing that Lin Kaiyun was actually a human. He showed his claws angrily and shouted, "Great! I am really short-sighted. I didn't expect that you humans would dare to break into my territory. You really don't take me seriously. Since you are here, don't leave. Just treat me as a fresh dish." Wang Liu Laoxin, whose calm face became extremely ferocious at this time, although he recognized that Lin Kaiyun was not an ordinary monster before, he only thought that he was the great fairy of the Wang family. Although monsters and the 5 major families of the fairy family can be regarded as mortal enemies, they are fundamentally the same species. Moreover, Wang Liu Laoxin has a very good great fairy friend, so he was not too angry. But after seeing Lin Kaiyun reveal his identity and turned out to be a human, Wang Liu Laoxin's blood pressure rose all of a sudden. He felt deceived and insulted by Lin Kaiyun. How could he tolerate this? The other monsters in the cave also knew that Lin Kaiyun was a human. In addition, Wang Liu Laoxin said that he would add a plate of fresh dishes for them, so they immediately set their eyes on Lin Kaiyun and the other 2. The wild wolf monster that had just spoken to Lin Kaiyun put down the pieces of meat on his hands, wiped his mouth full of sharp teeth, and said excitedly, "Great, I haven't eaten fresh human flesh for a long time. I didn't expect you to deliver it to my door. It's really great." The group of monsters looked at Lin Kaiyun and the other two with greedy eyes, as if they might rush up at any time and tear them to pieces. "Run!" Seeing this scene, Lin Kaiyun did not hesitate, shouted to Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, turned around and ran, and rushed straight out of the cave. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan could not wait any longer, and wanted to follow Lin Kaiyun and run away. The two cat-like medicines that had been guarding the door to check the authenticity of all visiting monsters crawled on the ground, revealing their claws, trying to stop Lin Kaiyun and the other two from escaping. At the same time, the monsters in the cave also started chasing. The situation of Lin Kaiyun and the other two was that they were blocked in front and pursued from behind. However, Lin Kaiyun did not regret exposing his identity just now. He would have to expose his identity sooner or later anyway. If he was discovered by Wang Liuxin and plotted against him, then it would be too late. So Lin Kaiyun decided to take the initiative and directly admit that he was a human. It was precisely because of this that all the monsters, including Wang Liuxin, were shocked and stunned for a moment, and Lin Kaiyun took this rare opportunity to flee directly. As for the two little wild cats blocking the entrance of the cave, Lin Kaiyun didn't care at all. He took out the 7-star dragon abyss sword from his storage belt and cut off the heads of the two wildcat monsters with a knife. After there was no obstacle, Lin Kaiyun, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan fled quickly. As for the monsters chasing behind them, they had been pulled away by a certain distance. For a while, there was no way to deal with Lin Kaiyun and the other two. Wang Liuxin felt that he was embarrassed in this situation. He had to capture these three people today, torture them, and eat them to re-establish his prestige. Now it seemed that only he could capture Lin Kaiyun and the other two by himself. At this time, Wang Liuxin kicked away his tiger skin stool and told the fox monster beside him, "Go and take some people to guard the back mountain." Chapter 247, We Can Only Fight. After Wang Liuxin gave instructions to the fox monsters around him, he spread his hands and leaned forward. The yellow robe he was wearing actually fluttered in the wind. His two claws flapped like wings and flew up. Wang Liuxin was flying very fast in the air and quickly chased after Lin Kaiyun and the other two. Although Lin Kaiyun did not have eyes behind his head, he could still feel Wang Liuxin flying in the air behind him and chasing them. "This old fox can actually fly? I really underestimated him," Lin Kaiyun muttered and increased his speed a bit. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, who were originally following closely behind Lin Kaiyun, suddenly found that Wang Liuxin appeared above their heads. The clothes fluttering in the wind, coupled with the old face with a pointed mouth and monkey cheeks, made Dai Qingfeng and Luoan feel cold in their hearts. They wanted to run away quickly to distance themselves, but their speed was far slower than Lin Kaiyun. Not only did they fail to shake off Wang Liuxin who was chasing them in the air, but they were also caught up by other monsters. A monster with a rat head stretched out its bloody tongue and smiled evilly at Dai Qingfeng, and then used its tail covered with spikes to wrap around Dai Qingfeng's arm. The tail of this rat monster was full of spikes, which looked extremely sharp, and some juice could be seen on it from time to time. It must be poisonous. Not to mention Dai Qingfeng, even if Lin Kaiyun was attacked, it would probably be very troublesome. But Dai Qingfeng, after all the training and growth along the way, naturally would not sit and wait for death. Although the attack of the rat monster's tail was very fast and difficult for him to dodge, he could still block it with his hands raised. Dai Qingfeng's reaction was also very quick and direct. He raised his zombie arm and kept shaking it, like a bobbin of wool, and actually entangled the tail of the mouse monster on his zombie arm. At this time, Wang Liuxin, who had caught up with Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, also launched an angry attack. Wang Liuxin opened his sharp mouth and spit out a strong smell of demonic energy, which turned into a thick rope and whipped towards Dai Qingfeng. Dai Qingfeng had no time to think about what to do, and completely relied on instinct and subconsciously threw the entangled mouse monster up. The moment the mouse monster came into contact with Wang Liuxin's attack, it was instantly tied up by the rope transformed by the demonic energy. "Older mortal, help, it's me." The mouse monster struggled desperately for help, and the sound was like a child's cry, which was generally very uncomfortable to listen to. However, the Wang Liu immortal didn't care about the rat monster. The evil spirit that came out of his mouth instantly sucked the rat monster into a mummy. Lin Kaiyun, who was running in the front, waved the 7-star dragon abyss sword and cut off the heads of several monsters. At the same time, he saw Dai Qingfeng and Luoan with his peripheral vision, and actually stopped and shouted, "Hurry up, you two, run now, use all your strength, oh, run." Dai Qingfeng and Luoan finally reacted after hearing Lin Kaiyun's reminder. Just now, after throwing the rat monster up, Dai Qingfeng stood there at a loss, and at the same time, Luo Yang, who was standing beside him, mistakenly thought that Dai Qingfeng had some plan. As a result, the two of them were stunned. Fortunately, Lin Kaiyun found that the two people were not right and reminded them in time, otherwise the second attack of the Wangliu immortal who was chasing in the sky would come. Then, Lin Kaiyun took out 2 magic runners from his arms and hit Dai Qingfeng and Luoan's legs accurately. Suddenly, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan felt that their bodies seemed to be several times lighter, and they ran more easily and faster. In addition, the two of them really used all their strength as Lin Kaiyun reminded them, and they were about to catch up with Lin Kaiyun. The three of them formed a triangle formation and ran forward. Lin Kaiyun took the 7-star dragon abyss sword and took the lead. There were not many monsters blocking the way in front, so the escape route of the 3 people was not disturbed too much, and they were about to get out of the valley soon. Seeing that the ribbons and lanterns hanging on both sides were becoming more and more sparse, Lin Kaiyun and the other 2 knew that they should be about to get out of the valley. However, at this moment, a violent evil wind suddenly blew, and a huge rock as big as half a house fell from the sky and directly blocked the valley. Seeing this scene, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan were stunned. Just now, they were happy because they were about to escape from the valley, but they didn't expect that they would be too happy and sad. Even Lin Kaiyun was a little discouraged. There was no need to think about it. It must have been done by the old immortal Wangliu. Dai Qingfeng asked anxiously, "Brother Lin, what should we do?" "This only way is blocked." Lin Kaiyun's face was deep, and his eyes revealed a decisive look. He exerted a little force in his palm and tightened his grip on the 7-star dragon abyss sword. He shouted coldly, "There is no other way. We can't fly. We can only fight." After hearing what Lin Kaiyun said, Luoan glanced at the monsters that were still chasing them, and shouted anxiously, "Fight? Master Lin, how can we fight against the monsters behind us?" Dai Qingfeng also looked at Lin Kaiyun with the same worry, and he must have the same idea as Luoan. Lin Kaiyun showed no expression, and said calmly, "These monsters are not that strong. I have killed many of them just now, and you should know that the rat monster that attacked you just now, Dai Qingfeng, is not very strong. Not to mention your zombie arm, even Luoan's sword can kill these monsters." Dai Qingfeng and Luoan nodded in agreement after hearing what Lin Kaiyun said. It was indeed as Lin Kaiyun said. When dealing with the rat monster before, Dai Qingfeng didn't seem to spend too much effort to throw the rat monster up. There is no other way now. I will deal with that old fox. What you have to do is try not to let other monsters interfere with me. Lin Kaiyun weighed the 7-star dragon abyss sword in his hand. After that, Lin Kaiyun walked towards the monsters that were chasing him. Seeing this, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan decided to fight. Dai Qingfeng tore off his sleeves, revealing a complete zombie arm. Luoan also carried his sword and followed Lin Kaiyun aggressively. The division of labor among the people was different. Lin Kaiyun's target was the flying Wangliu Laoxin, and Dai Qingfeng and Luoan's mission was to cover Lin Kaiyun. Chapter 248, Okay, that's pretty cool. Lin Kaiyun held a 7-star dragon abyss sword and walked towards the direction of Wangliu Laoxin. The blade made a violent friction sound when it touched the ground, and there were even sparks, which kept splashing out. When the chasing monsters saw Lin Kaiyun and the other 2, they dared to turn around and rush forward angrily. At this time, Dai Qingfeng directly raised his zombie arm, and the red fluff on the zombie arm seemed to be swaying in the wind, and the blood vessels inside were also bulging. "Come on. If you don't let me live, you won't live either," Dai Qingfeng shouted, waving his zombie arm, and killed into the monsters. The claws on the zombie arm were like a harvester, destroying all the monsters it touched. For a while, broken limbs and arms were flying all over the sky, and it was extremely bloody and tragic. Seeing that Dai Qingfeng had already started, Luoan was unwilling to fall behind and directly blocked Lin Kaiyun's right side. Facing the monsters around him, he was not afraid at all. He carried the big knife on his shoulder and chopped it out smoothly. Wherever the blade went, blood spurted out. Originally, Dai Qingfang and Luoan were a little nervous before they started, but once they came into contact with these monsters, they were pleasantly surprised to find that these monsters were really not very powerful as Lin Kaiyun said, and both Dai Qingfang's zombie arm and Luoan's bin knife could cause damage to these monsters. Because Dai Qingfang and Luoan were covering on the left and right, Lin Kaiyun was not disturbed at all and ran straight to Wang Liu Laoxin in front of him. A few humans dared to come back, then you will become a meal. Wang Liu Laoxin saw Lin Kaiyun running towards him, and a disdainful smile appeared on his face. He opened his mouth and spit out a mist, covering Lin Kaiyun who was running over. The mist was so strange that Lin Kaiyun, who had extremely strong vision, could not see anything around him. Heaven and Earth Zuanzong, the root of all Qi, cultivate 10,000 calamities, and prove my supernatural power, Lin Kaiyun shouted softly, and a layer of flames suddenly jumped up on his body. Then Lin Kaiyun opened his 10 fingers, and a net condensed by golden flames directly surrounded Lin Kaiyun and spun rapidly. This golden flame was accompanied by an extremely overbearing power, and all the thick fog that had come into contact with it was dissolved. At this time, Wang Liu Laoxin suddenly appeared behind Lin Kaiyun. He used thick fog to block Lin Kaiyun's sight. Of course, it was for a sneak attack. So no matter how strong the flames around Lin Kaiyun were, Wang Liu Laoxin would not miss this opportunity. Wang Liu Laoxin's robe swelled in the wind, and a sharp claw stretched out from the robe and grabbed Lin Kaiyun's vest. As for the flames surrounding Lin Kaiyun, Wang Liu Laoxin didn't take it seriously at all, and was ready to break it with one force. Wang Liu Laoxin's claws, with a demonic aura, directly grabbed the yellow flames around Lin Kaiyun. However, it did not break with force as Wang Liu Laoxin had expected. Instead, its claws were cut several times the moment they touched the flames. Blood flowed from Wang Liu Laoxin's claws, and the piercing pain made him howl. Wang Liu Laoxin quickly retracted his claws under his robe and looked at the flames surrounding Lin Kaiyun in shock. Although Wang Liu Laoxin's body was not particularly strong among the monsters, it was definitely not something that an ordinary human could hurt. At this time, Lin Kaiyun also used the golden light curse to dissolve all the monsters. Wang Liu Laoxin attacked from behind, and he had already felt it, but Lin Kaiyun was extremely confident in the defensive ability of the golden light curse. He did not think that Wang Liu Laoxin's ordinary claw attack could hurt him at all. Lin Kaiyun melted all the mist, then turned around calmly, looked at Wang Liu Laoxin with a smile, and said, "You wanted to sneak attack, what's wrong? Didn't you succeed?" Wang Liu Laoxin was furious at Lin Kaiyun's disdainful expression, and screamed, "Damn human, you actually look down on me, I'll let you see my real strength." Wang Liu Laoxin was able to hold his birthday like a human, and sent invitations to monsters everywhere. Although there were no powerful monsters in the end, they were all small fry, but from this point it can be seen that Wang Liu Laoxin is a very face-loving monster. However, Lin Kaiyun provoked and insulted Wang Liu Laoxin one after another, especially Lin Kaiyun's playful eyes, which made Wang Liu Laoxin unbearable and really furious. Wang Liu Laoxin's body swelled up instantly, and the yellow robe on his body was torn apart. The injured claw just now also recovered and grew larger with the body. The strongest combat power of a monster is usually in its original form. In theory, Wang Liu Laoxin is a fox, but at this moment, Wang Liu Laoxin's original form is even larger than the old monster he encountered before. Similarly, Wang Liu Laoxin not only became bigger, but also had an amazing aura, and for a while, the aura of a monster filled the air. However, Lin Kaiyun showed no fear. He had seen many moves that could enlarge the original form, including the zombie Wang Zuingqia and the mysterious black dragon, but in terms of aura, they were dozens of times stronger than Wang Liu Laoxin. Therefore, Wang Liu Laoxin's form did not have any effect on Lin Kaiyun. Instead, it made Lin Kaiyun feel that the range of attack was larger and easier to hit. The sky and the earth are boundless, and the universe borrows the law. Imperial command. Lin Kaiyun took out more than a dozen talismans from his arms and threw them at Wang Liu Laoxin's head. Because Wang Liu Laoxin's body had become bigger, the talismans were very easy to hit. Even if they didn't, they were all attached to his head, at least on his neck. Bang! Lin Kaiyun ignited the flames of the dozen or so fire talismans at the same time, and instantly burned on the neck of Wang Liu Laoxin. What a trifle! This little flame is not even worthy of tickling me. Wang Liu Laoxin seemed to not care about Lin Kaiyun's talismans at all. He arrogantly mocked Lin Kaiyun, And then a strong demonic energy broke out from his body, blowing away all the burning fire talismans. Then, Wang Liu Laoxin raised his huge claws and smashed them down on Lin Kaiyun's head. Lin Kaiyun reacted quickly and swung the 7-star dragon abyss sword horizontally, and a sword beam slashed out. But Wang Liu Laoxin's body burst out with a thick demonic energy again, directly shattering the sword beam slash by Lin Kaiyun. Not only that, but it also spread to Lin Kaiyun with a corrosive attribute. Old fox, you are great. Your demonic energy is quite powerful. Lin Kaiyun waved his hand and used the golden light curse to block in front of him. The golden flame collided with a corrosive demonic energy, making a sizzling sound. Lin Kaiyun also took the opportunity to turn sideways and slash the 7-star dragon abyss sword on the neck of Wang Liu Laoxin. Chapter 249. The tail is bald. Facing Lin Kaiyun's slash, Wang Liu Laoxin's body twisted softly like a snake, at a very fast speed, even leaving a grayish-yellow afterimage. Wang Liu Laoxin, who dodged Lin Kaiyun's attack, bent his body, and reached out with his sharp claws, heading straight for Lin Kaiyun's chest. Wang Liu Laoxin's dodge and counter-attack were so fast this time that Lin Kaiyun had almost no time to react. Lin Kaiyun subconsciously used the 7-star dragon abyss sword to block, but he only felt a strong force coming, and the whole person was slapped away, rolling on the ground twice before he barely stopped. An old fox actually used the black tiger heart digging technique. Interesting. Lin Kaiyun smiled at Wang Liu Laoxin, stood up and wiped the dust off his face. Although Lin Kaiyun was slapped away by Wang Liu Laoxin's power and even rolled on the ground twice, looking a little embarrassed. In fact, Lin Kaiyun did not suffer much damage, and rolling on the ground was also to relieve the force. Wang Liu Laoxin obviously felt that Lin Kaiyun was not seriously injured, and the next attacks came one after another. Wang Liu Laoxin directly soared into the air, turned sideways in the air, and the tail, which had lost much hair due to the ravages of the years, fell towards Lin Kaiyun like a steel whip. This time, Lin Kaiyun was very vigilant and reacted quickly, jumping sideways to avoid it. However, Wang Liu Laoxin's attack did not end. After the tail, which was like a steel whip, hit the ground, it actually shook, and the red hair on it shot out one by one, like steel needles, targeting Lin Kaiyun. The dense attack range was very wide, and Lin Kaiyun was too late to roll and dodge. He could only raise his arm to activate the golden light curse, hoping to block these yellow hairs like steel needles. The golden light set up a barrier like a city wall in front of Lin Kaiyun, and all these yellow hairs like steel needles pierced the barrier, making a sound like steel hitting. The flame of the golden light flickered continuously, just like it swallowed up the thick fog before, and it was also dissolving the steel needles that pierced in. The effect was very obvious. The continuous steel needles were blocked by the golden light spell, but the golden light spell could not remove all the power, and Lin Kaiyun, who is maintaining the golden light behind, retreated again and again. Old man, your tail is almost bald. Is this the only way you use it? Lin Kaiyun gritted his teeth and used a lot of strength to maintain the stability of the golden light spell. He kept competing with the old immortal Wang Liu, desperately stimulating Wang Liu's mentality. Damn, and you, an ordinary human, dare to be so presumptuous in front of me? I must kill you, eat your flesh and drink your blood. Wang Liu was really angry. He screamed loudly, retracted his tail, and his whole body jumped forward, turning into yellow light, rushing towards Lin Kaiyun. Lin Kaiyun had already discovered from the few rounds of fighting that Wang Liu Laoxin had always been a skinny old fox, and even now that his body had grown bigger, he did not seem very strong. But Wang Liu Laoxin was very good at close-range fighting, and his strength was not weak, and his speed was even more powerful, which made Lin Kaiyun feel very difficult to deal with. After all, if his agility was very strong, Lin Kaiyun's moves would not be easy to hit, and the opponent was not a fool. And it was impossible for him to stand and let him hit him. Moreover, judging from the current situation, Lin Kaiyun was relatively passive, and he had not found a chance to counterattack. In addition, Wang Liu Laoxin's attacks were very continuous, and Lin Kaiyun did not dare to easily reveal his flaws. However, Wang Liu Laoxin's continuous close combat made Lin Kaiyun secretly groan in his heart. He could not even use Bagwood Palm and Fenghou Qimen, but Wang Liu Laoxin seemed to have predicted it and dodged all of them. Damn it, I can't keep getting beaten like this. Don't people say that the best defense is defense? I have to change the situation. Facing the high-frequency attacks of Wang Liu Laoxin, Lin Kaiyun was a little flustered when resisting, and was attacked by Wang Liu Laoxin from time to time. Although he was protected by the Golden Light Curse and did not suffer much damage, the vibration of pure power also made Lin Kaiyun's internal organs ache. And this is obviously not a long-term strategy. Lin Kaiyun has been looking for opportunities to counterattack, even if he has to fight to be hit. Then Lin Kaiyun put on a full spirit and kept paying attention to the pattern of Wang Liu Laoxin's attack. Now, Lin Kaiyun narrowed his eyes slightly and found a gap in Wang Liu Laoxin. He blocked Wang Liu Laoxin's claws with his shoulder, and then Lin Kaiyun leaned his body, and the 7-star Dragon Abyss Sword went straight to Wang Liu Laoxin's stomach. Lin Kaiyun used the method of exchanging injuries for injuries to reverse the situation where he had been passively beaten. Wang Liu Laoxin was very agile and dodged Lin Kaiyun's attack calmly. At the same time, he spit out thick fog from his mouth to block Lin Kaiyun's sight, and then hid his claws in the thick fog. Wang Liu Laoxin's thick fog enveloped Lin Kaiyun again. If Lin Kaiyun still used the golden light to dissolve the thick fog according to the previous method, then his chance to fight back would be wasted. So, Lin Kaiyun, ignoring defense, relying on his own senses, sensing Wang Liu Laoxin's position, the 7-star Dragon Source Sword in his hand rippled with a dazzling light. For a moment, Lin Kaiyun showed an indomitable momentum. He pointed the 7-star Dragon Abyss Sword to the sky and shouted loudly, "The bright sun and moon, the glory of the universe, protect my golden body. The demons and ghosts on all sides will turn into dust in an instant." The 7 stars return to their positions. Dragon Abyss kills the enemy and exterminates the evil. In an instant, 7 points of light flashed in the thick fog, as if echoing the bright light on the 7-star Dragon Abyss Sword. At the same time, 7 points of light also appeared on the blade of the 7-star Dragon Abyss Sword, like a twisting sword energy, slashing out. For a moment, the Big Dipper around Lin Kaiyun shone brightly, and actually passed through the thick fog to the position of Wang Liu Laoxin. Then the 7-star Dragon Abyss Sword shook left and right, and bounced Wang Liu Laoxin's claws away. At the same time, Lin Kaiyun's attack did not stop, and he stabbed in without hesitation. Wang Liu Laoxin was very confident in his attack. With the interference of the thick fog and his proud speed, Wang Liu Laoxin could not imagine that he could fail. However, Lin Kaiyun easily dodged the claws of Wang Liu Laoxin and stabbed the sword into Wang Liu Laoxin's abdomen where his defense was weakest. Wang Liu Laoxin obviously did not expect this situation and did not even dodge. Chapter 250, Save. Damn human, I will grind you to dust. Wang Liu Laoxin looked at his bleeding abdomen and roared angrily. The wound was not fatal, and it was only less than an inch deep. But for Wang Liu Laoxin, who always regarded humans as ants, this was such an insult. Wang Liu Laoxin instantly burst out with a greater speed, and his 2 claws waved rapidly like electric fans. For Wang Liu Laoxin's more crazy attack, its power was naturally not small. Lin Kaiyun was not surprised. If it hit him, he would probably be crushed. Lin Kaiyun directly released a piercing on Wang Liu Laoxin, tightened his legs, jumped up, and then was able to find a gap, kicked Wang Liu Laoxin's face, and bounced back with his force. Damn it, I'm going to kill you. Wang Liu Laoxin, who had completely lost his mind at this time, wanted to kill Lin Kaiyun with all his heart, and desperately chased after Lin Kaiyun, who bounced away. Looking at the Wang Liu Laoxin Lin Kaiyun who was chasing him like a mad dog, a smile appeared on his lips. Lin Kaiyun raised his right arm very calmly, and pretended to draw a bow and shoot an arrow at the Wang Liu Laoxin who was rushing over. Yes, just when Lin Kaiyun was just ejected by the force, he had awakened the demon bow blood king in his heart. In an instant, Lin Kaiyun's face turned pale, and the blood arrow with blood beads flowing between his hands holding the bow appeared out of thin air. This blood arrow can be regarded as Lin Kaiyun's killer move, and the reason why he has been patient until now. Even when he was passively beaten before, Lin Kaiyun did not use this move, because the speed of Wang Liu Laoxin was extremely fast, and Wang Liu Laoxin could always spit out thick fog that confused his vision and the extremely powerful demonic energy from his mouth. Because of these, even if Lin Kaiyun used the blood arrow, it would be difficult to hit. However, it was different now. This Wang Liu Laoxin had obviously lost his mind. In extreme anger, people would lose their rational judgment ability, not to mention this monster, which was inherently vicious. Before the blood arrow was launched, the bloody smell instantly spread throughout the valley. This smell made all the monsters that smelled it turn blood red in the eyes, and became more violent, as if they were losing their minds and going crazy. Dai Qingfeng and Luoan, who were on the left and right of Lin Kaiyun, were in a very bad situation at this time. Except for the beginning, the two of them killed some monsters because of their high morale, and they seemed to be full of fighting power. However, as time went on, the physical strength and fighting spirit of Dai Qingfeng and Luoan were declining. Facing the siege of many monsters, they were more or less injured. Although they were injured, Dai Qingfeng and Luoan could still grit their teeth and persist. As a result, they suddenly found that the eyes of the monsters in front of them became red, and they rushed towards Dai Qingfeng and Luoan as if they were not afraid of death. Dai Qingfeng used his zombie arm to swing away a black bear monster, and then shouted to Luoan on the other side, "Run, these monsters are crazy, Boss Dai, I want to run, but look at how I can run now." Luoan's sword had been bitten by the wolf bite, and he was also tightly entangled by a humanoid monster behind him, unable to move at all. At this time, not only Luoan, but also Dai Qingfeng was trapped again. And he was probably going to be beaten to death. At this critical moment, the monsters surrounding Dai Qingfeng and Luoan actually fought each other, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. This scene made Dai Qingfeng and Luoan stunned, including Lin Kaiyun, who was a little surprised at this time. However, Lin Kaiyun naturally knew the reason. The reason why these monsters became crazy was because of the influence of the blood arrow in his hand. Every time he used this demon bow, the Blood King, he would feel a violent killing intent in his heart and mind. If it weren't for Lin Kaiyun, who used the calming mantra to suppress this killing intent, he would have gone crazy sooner or later. After all, he clearly remembered that when he first obtained this demon bow Blood King, he almost lost his mind. However, Lin Kaiyun didn't expect that this demon bow Blood King could not only disturb himself, but also disturb the monsters in this valley. You should know that the last time he dealt with a zombie king Zuinke, it definitely didn't have this effect. Although it seems that this evil blood arrow seems to be disturbing all monsters indiscriminately, and the combat effectiveness of those monsters has soared, if it is just like this, it will be completely counterproductive, because facing these already crazy monsters, let alone Qingfeng and Luoan, even Lin Kaiyun can't hold on for a few rounds. However, although the combat effectiveness of these monsters has soared, they are attacking like crazy. The medicines that originally surrounded Dai Qingfeng and Luoan are fighting each other, which instantly reduces the pressure on Dai Qingfeng and Luoan. Lin Kaiyun just glanced at it casually and immediately retracted his attention. After all, the Wanglian Laoxin was also disturbed by the bloody smell, and even his speed increased a bit. Turning his head, he saw that the Wanglian Laoxin was only a few meters away from him, but Lin Kaiyun was still calm and did not shoot the blood arrow in his hand. Because Lin Kaiyun wanted to hit the target with 100% certainty. The Wanglian Laoxin had dodged Lin Kaiyun's too many attacks before. Even though he was a little lost in reason because of anger and the interference of the bloody smell, Lin Kaiyun was not willing to gamble. After Lin Kaiyun used the demon bow Blood King, he could not afford to fail. After all, this attack almost consumed 1/3 of his blood. If he did not hit the target, his combat effectiveness would be sharply reduced. The monsters in the valley who had lost their minds fought each other desperately, shouting, and the sound of blood and flesh splashing came from everywhere. However, Lin Kaiyun could not hear any of these sounds now. He had already put himself into an extremely serious state. He could only hear his even breathing. At this moment, he was like a hunter lying in ambush in the bushes, quietly waiting for the prey to come to him. 2 meters, 1 meter. Lin Kaiyun was very nervous, accurately estimating the position of Wanglian Laoxin to pay attention to him. When the claws were already in front of him, Lin Kaiyun finally moved. He suddenly leaned forward with his head, his scalp pressed against Wanglian Laoxin's claws, and bent down, like a charge, approaching Wanglian Laoxin's abdomen. At this time, Lin Kaiyun did not shoot the blood arrow, but held the blood arrow firmly in his hand with his back hand, and stabbed the blood sword into the wound on Wanglian Laoxin's abdomen like a dagger. Nothing is more secure than a close-range attack, and the place where Lin Kaiyun attacked was exactly the place where the 7-star Dragon Abyss sword had stabbed before, and the abdomen was originally Wanglian Laoxin's weak point. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.